Mr. Beast has just been
Love is cursed long
It took a very long time. That was not my intention. Let's watch, actually I'm gonna throw up a, Blue Sky post here. I need to add Blue Sky to all my stuff. Somebody figure out where to find me. See what this Mr. Beast stuff is. Not the darkest TV show for kids, I promise you that.
Exposed in a viral video, and it is getting bad.
This train track is CGI, these bus wheels are CGI, this explosion is fake, this shredder is CGI, this car is digitally lifted, this pit is fake, this guy is fake, this raccoon is a paid actor.
It's because it's one of those situations that just keeps evolving to the point where, you know, what comes out the next day is infinitely more wilder than what came out a day ago.
Everyone who participated in an illegal lottery needs to have right done by them.
And it doesn't stop there. There are claims that Mr. Beast's frequent giveaways are actually illegal lotteries, and that Mr. Beast's contests run afoul of federal anti-rigging laws.
Jimmy is not the same person that he is on camera as he is off camera.
He's wearing a mask. Why would you wear a mask? Why would you conceal your face? It's like, what are you concealing? That you are registered sex offender? And that your face can be looked up on a thing? How much more can you literally cover up a sex offender?
Are you going to sue Dogpack?
Well,
So a few days ago, I uploaded a video covering a video that Soggy Cereal made debunking videos that Dogpack404 made, accusing MrBeast of blah, 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 blah. I mean, you guys already know, okay, the MrBeast allegations have been the biggest, longest running, and most confusing YouTube drama in the history of YouTube. I literally cannot think of a more contentious, insane, crazy series of twists and turns for my entire time making YouTube videos about YouTube drama, frankly. But basically what you need to know is that MrBeast is the most popular YouTuber of all time. Some very serious allegations were levied at him, starting with Chris Tyson. And Chris Tyson was his longtime friend of 10 years, basically, that was in his videos from the very beginning, that ended up having some serious gooning group chats leaked where Chris was having very inappropriate conversations where minors were present. Chris is also a fan of an artist named Shadman, very controversial artist who draws underage characters in very compromising positions. Not a good guy, kind of twisted and evil, kind of weird even, some may say. Some would say it's weird. I would say we need to do something. And as a result of the Chris Tyson expose, Dogpack404, a former employee of MrBeast, then came out with a series of videos with different allegations about MrBeast. Now, Soggy's video in present day has extensively debunked several claims that Dogpack had made, and it pretty much made him look like a very spiteful, deranged person that didn't seem to really care about the truth and what the truth was, didn't care about bringing MrBeast to justice, and rather wanted to just take him down a peg because he had a personal vendetta against him because he was fired. And the thing is, a lot of these criticisms about Dogpack404 had been out there for a long time. Creators like myself and a lot of others had talked about it, and we were basically being gaslit to an extent into believing that this is all bullshit and there weren't actually any real problems with the investigation. On this topic, a lot of the audience, I'm gonna say it, has been straight up retarded. Even if Dogpack's intentions from the beginning were good, ultimately it led to a lot of misinformation being spread. But all of this is not to discount Soggy Cereal, because his video, some of the stuff that he leaked, no one could have possibly predicted how insane some of it would be, truly. My favorite is probably the now infamous leaked audio of Dogpack begging not to get fired from the MrBeast company and then turning into like Syndrome from The Incredibles. Like it's actually insane how petty this revenge plot was from the beginning.
You're pushing back on everything that we're saying. So
well, because you're trying to fire me, and I want to work at this company.
I'm the CEO of this company. If I'm talking, don't interrupt.
I've been trying to get to this point of working on MrBeast for a long time. Can I please have a second chance?
With that being said, Soggy's video is not completely bulletproof, and he did end up getting some stuff wrong and leaving things out. For example, he defended MrBeast for hiring a convicted sex offender, saying that MrBeast didn't know, which is very possible, but at the same time, he did not acknowledge the fact that Chris Tyson, who is MrBeast's longtime friend and a big star on the channel, was friends with Delaware prior to Delaware being hired, Delaware being the registered sex offender. The whole story about LaKoya Hill, the COO of the company, who had some allegations made about him internally and was then shuffled around to a different company before brought back to the MrBeast company, was also basically confirmed by the Soggy Cereal video. At least the idea that there were allegations of sexual misconduct and the fact that the guy was shuffled around between companies before brought back to MrBeast Co. proper. And of course, it also has to be mentioned that this wasn't a totally independent video that Soggy made. He had the permission to interview multiple MrBeast employees who otherwise would be under NDA and not able to discuss the information they wanted in his video, and they were given that approval by, of course, MrBeast himself. Now, right around the same time that this Soggy video came out, more allegations about MrBeast were also released. Specifically, the crypto investigator guru of YouTube, CoffeeZilla, made a video investigating some alleged crypto scams that he was involved in with some others, but overall the video wasn't definitive proof of anything, and even Coffee said that. As he said in the video, the conclusion you come to in regards to the crypto stuff will ultimately depend on if you like MrBeast or not, because there's a lot of missing information with some serious blanks to fill in there. But overall, the majority of Soggy's video had a lot of good information. It disproved a lot of what was previously thought to be true about MrBeast from the Dogpack videos. And what's also important to keep in mind is that in his own video, Soggy did state outright several times that he doesn't see this as vindication for MrBeast. He doesn't want to help MrBeast necessarily. He just wants to disprove the false claims that Dogpack made. But despite that, MrBeast seemingly liked the video a lot. He left a comment on it. And on top of that, several commentary creators like myself were also messaged this video directly by MrBeast when he was like, hey, watch this video. It disproves a lot of these allegations. And Soggy ended up taking a big issue with Mr. Breast messaging commentary people, and he ended up making a whole thread on Twitter essentially saying that he felt gross and used by MrBeast. Now, at the end of my previous breast milk video, I speculated that if MrBeast was reaching out to several commentary people and he was offering more Pegasus an interview and then pulling out at a different point of time, clearly some kind of interview was about to come out, and sure enough, that interview did actually drop, and it's from a friend of the channel, Oompaville. Wow, isn't that just incredible? I mean, it's almost like I knew ahead of time he was going to interview MrBeast, okay? Yet another 200 IQ foresight prediction from me in the bag, okay? Sometimes I even impress myself. But anyway, let's get into what I know all of you you are thinking right now, what you're begging for. Did Mr. Beast save his reputation? Will he be able to crawl out of the pits of despair? Or is this the final nail in the Beast Co. coffin, solidifying the end of the Mr. Beast empire? Will Mr. Breast be executed in the street by Roman legionnaires? And most importantly, when is my next collaboration with Chris? Well, all of these questions and more will be answered today as we dig into the official Mr. Beast response to the allegations.
So we can duplicate that and then... Dude, that's weird.
One of the things they do before the actual interview starts is Oombaville has Jimmy swear on a Bible because they're both from the South, I guess. The only issue is Jimmy doesn't actually swear on the Bible, okay? He just kind of puts his hand on it, and then they both quip about how they're from the Bible Belt, okay? You got to say your vows if you swear on a Bible, Mr. Beast. This is a court of law. Literally everyone knows this, okay? Everyone.
Firstly, would you be willing to put your hand on this Bible and swear?
Funny.
Oh my gosh, you actually have a Bible?
I have 2 Bibles.
Are you being serious?
I am being serious.
Okay.
I'm swear. We're both from the South. This will be an honest video.
Oh, your laptop's blocking it.
Oh, whoops. This will be an honest video. You're a man from North Carolina. I'm from Virginia.
The Bible Belt.
The Bible Belt,
Yep.
exactly.
I know what this means.
This means it's legit.
Yes. Okay.
There we go.
I was not expecting that.
But one of the first questions that Oompa asks Jimmy is why he stayed silent for so long on these allegations, which is obviously something that's been on a lot of people's minds because, you know, in a situation like this, if you don't respond for a week or two, people will be like, all right, maybe he's still working on a response. But you don't respond for weeks and weeks and what turned into ultimately 4 months for Mr. Beast. People start to really question, like, is something going on here? Is he hiding something? Is he not responding because he knows that he's in the wrong? Well, what Jimmy says is that initially when the Chris Tyson allegations dropped, he ended up paying a third-party law firm for a full investigation, which we already knew from his initial tweet about these allegations when he said that Chris was removed from the company and he would be having a third-party investigation done, which does appear to have happened. And according to him, this law firm that was investigating him basically said that he should refrain from making any public comment during the investigation so as not to tangle things up in the public eye. But if true, that's obviously very unfortunate timing for him because right after the investigation started, the first video by Dogpack 404 dropped, and then the drama just started snowballing from there. Now, Oombaville also provided further context to the situation with a Google Doc in the description, which contained an email from this third-party law firm, which seems to confirm that this is the case. As an initial matter, to protect the investigation's integrity, on July 31st, 2024, Quinn Emanuel requested that current employees refrain from public comments to ensure the investigation yielded accurate information and the witnesses were not tainted. The intent was to foster candid interviews and complete cooperations with the investigatory process.
Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would do what we're doing here because I assume this is like the correct format. It's going to be a little bit more free-flowing and natural, and I wouldn't have wasted so much time like trying to do a response. It's just not my thing. I like so much better, or I'm assuming, I mean, we just started, but I think I'm gonna like so much better being asked the questions and answer it instead of just like sitting in a chair like this, answering it. It just feels a little more natural.
Now, Jimmy then acknowledges that his decision to stay silent here while being investigated really ended up biting him in the ass in the long term,
So
particularly
like
because in his words, a lot of
color?
disinformation was able to be spread after the Dogpack video dropped, while he just had to sit there in the cuck chair and not say anything about it. The most interesting thing he says here is that he messaged several content creators telling them that some of what they were saying about him was blatantly incorrect, and one of them apparently said, yeah, I know, but I can't say anything positive about you because it's too unpopular to defend you.
I even sent that to a couple of YouTubers. I was like, hey, just so you know, like, I didn't call him Delaware because of this messed up thing. Like, that was just his name, and here's proof. And I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of the creators, but like, one of them literally just said to me, like, well, it's not really cool to like you or defend you right now, so I don't really care whether or not it's true, or I don't want to take the video down because then people are gonna think I'm controlled opposition. I was like, whoa.
Now, Jimmy does not provide any receipts for this because he says he doesn't want to say their name. But if that is true, that is absolutely fucking insane, especially if that content creator he's talking about has a massive audience. I would love to know who that is. Now, Jimmy also specifically called out some of my biggest fans over on the r/YouTube drama subreddit. Specifically, he called out their moderation team for taking down any kind of positive post about him, or taking down any information that may have contradicted Dogpack's narrative, which is a little bit cathartic to hear, okay, as somebody who's been slandered by that subreddit a few times. It's good to see.
Right after that second Dogpack video started to get traction on Reddit, and saying like, hey, this is a lie. Jimmy didn't call him Delaware to make fun of him, you know, committing a crime in Delaware. That's just his name. And it got taken down by the mods on r/YouTube drama. And that's when I realized,
so it'll put
like,
it on the object
anytime
that's
there's a
below
post proving like that I'm not evil, they were they're taking it down.
Like, that place is an absolute shithole, and it is so comically biased that it's laughable. Even before the Mr. Beast interview dropped, there was a post with 1.5 thousand upvotes titled, "No matter what Mr. Beast says, I don't trust anything that comes out of his mouth because he chooses to work with a fully confirmed crypto scammer and scumbag like Logan Paul." Like, to be clear, Logan Paul is a cringe lord, and I don't like that Mr. Beast works with him. But there are a lot of allegations made about him that are unrelated to anything having to do with Logan Paul or KSI or Crypto Zoo or Lunchly.
But that's like, they don't want to work with him because he is working with him, and it shows like a what would you call it? Like a lapse in character judgment that affects everything else that he does. So it's like, hey, you know, you're working with a guy who is I don't know, like commits infanticide and kills babies. Oh yeah, but you know, we're not doing that. We're doing this other thing. Well, yeah, you still don't want to work with him though. I mean, that's completely hyperbole, but still.
Realistically, a lot of these allegations exist in isolation. You have to be willing to accept some kind of explanation for at least some of these things, right?
It's
this subreddit
detaching
is like a
the
art
from
plugging
the
their
artist
ears whenever they hear something they don't like. It's extremely gay. Now, Mr. Brest actually went so hard in the paint against this subreddit that he even provided several screenshots of blatant mod corruption in the doc, and currently the sub is having a full-blown meltdown, which brings a smile to my face personally, okay? Let it die.
Let them die.
Now, despite being investigated by a third-party law firm,
Why
one
does
big
Yellow
meme that got
have that?
popular during this time period
is that
after Jimmy
making
posted
that
about the
not
investigation
yellow?
having concluded is this idea that Mr. Beast investigated himself and he was found not guilty, basically saying that whatever company he hired was somehow biased because they were the ones reaching out to them, which is, frankly, kind of dumb. For a little bit of clarity here, Mr. Beast explains how the law firm that they hired, Quinn Emanuel, is one of the biggest groups of trial lawyers in the world. Like, their entire reputation is on how decisive they are and how thorough they are and how they are legally obligated to bring up anything they find illegal in the investigation and report it to the police. Like, they would be aiding and abetting in a crime if they didn't report anything that they found that Mr. Beast was doing to be illegal and, you know, didn't report it. So obviously it's kind of silly, the idea that this third-party investigation is biased towards Mr. Beast.
If they found anything illegal, they are obligated to report it to the police. Like, this like, that's how these things work when they do these investigations. It's not like they could be like, hey Jimmy, we found this illegal thing. We'll just sweep it under the rug.
But it's all right, because you paid us.
Now, Ubaville then clarifies that he hasn't signed any sort of document or NDA, so he can talk about anything from this interview as much as he wants.
Also, to be clear as well, I have not signed, like, an NDA or...
Fuck.
I mean... there's genuinely nothing that's been signed. You haven't given me $1 million.
It might not seem like the biggest deal, but I think to me, at the very least, it does demonstrate that Jimmy wanted this to be a raw dog interview where he addresses everything and is not sweeping things under the rug, at least on the surface. A willingness to be transparent and honest is good, and to me, it kind of shows that Ubaville is not necessarily some kind of controlled opposition or anything. He is, you know, at the very least, able to ask all the questions that he wants in this interview. Now, another thing that people were criticizing Mr. Beast for was this idea that his mother, Sue, was the head of the Human Resources Department at one point in time. I criticize him for that, for it being a huge conflict of interest for his own mother to be the head of human resources, and I think obviously that's a valid criticism. But the context that Jimmy adds here, his explanation, is that the company he has now is massively different from the company he had when he made his mom the head of HR. It's essentially the difference between a scrappy group of random people he basically found on the street to help him with videos, like people he knew from high school he was just hiring. He was a 20-year-old kid, to where it is now when he's 26. He's running a 400+ person massive company, massive entity, right? So back in the day when he was a teenager, the company he had could barely be called a company by the standards it is now. So his mother did do human resources for the company, but on top of that, she also did accounting for them. She did basic financial stuff because realistically, big surprise, Mr. Brest has no idea how to do taxes, and ultimately she was just filling all those roles, at least according to him, and we don't have any evidence to the contrary. Obviously, she's not the head of HR anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't say she's head of HR. I mean, she was, I guess, but she's also running finance, and you know, it's not like a real company. We just get in this like little
close. Why is that one?
No, actually, that one was
brown, and that one's making
$1,080
it
a month
green.
office I was renting, and I'd just be like to this one guy that I knew from high school, all right, today you're gonna go paint this thing. Today, you, friend number 2, you're gonna like help me edit this, and you, friend number 3, you're gonna go to the store and buy 1,000 chickens that like scream when you press down on them. And mom, I don't know, just make sure the IRS doesn't sue me. Like that's the time frame we're talking about here. But yes, I agree. Like, it's stupid. Like, you definitely shouldn't have your mom as an HR person. You should just hire someone who was educated in HR, which is obviously what we have. We have an HR team now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
I think on this particular point, until I see evidence of otherwise, I think it is fair to say that this conflict of interest, if you want to call it that, is ultimately a result of growing pains from a teenage Mr. Beast still learning the ropes of having a company at all, because now they do have a proper HR department that deals with these things. Now, next they address this no doesn't mean no line. The no doesn't mean no thing is a quote from a How to Succeed in Mr. Beast Production document that ended up getting leaked, and it became pretty infamous because a lot of people, when this came out, were basically implying that Mr. Beast is saying here that rape is okay or sexual assault is okay because of this line. The problem with that narrative being that the line was completely taken out of context, and instead it's not about anything relating to, you know, relations between people as far as like sex stuff go, right? Still. Instead, it's more of a salesman slogan of no doesn't mean no, which is basically the MO for people in sales, right? The idea is that anytime someone says no, it's a new opportunity to close because you want to endlessly pursue whatever avenue you have to get the person to buy a car or something like that, right? And this was already explained in the initial document, but people kind of ran with that one quote anyway. They just completely took it out of context. So realistically, I think this is a decent explanation from Jimmy. He basically explains that no doesn't mean no is not in regards to, as bad as it sounds, it's not in regards to anything really horrible. Instead, it's a mentality that was adopted because of all the insane shit they do in videos, like burying people alive, dangling obstacle courses from cranes, stuff like that. And essentially, the no means no thing was just a message to employees that like, hey, we want to exhaust every single possible avenue to get these videos done that we can.
The problem I kept running into early on when I was hiring people is I'd be like, hey, I want to do this. And then they would go call someone. So like, let's say the obstacle course in the sky, where we had like these obstacle courses that Mac did, held up by these cranes, weighed like 100,000 pounds or whatever. Like they would call crane companies and they'd be like, no. And then they'd be like, okay, hang up. And they'd come to me and they'd go, Jimmy, they said, no, we can't do it. The video's not possible. And it's like, okay, well, of course they're going to say no because everything we do has never been done before. But like, ask them why.
I guarantee you, if he said something in this document like advocate for yourself or go the extra mile, this wouldn't be as overblown as it is. But because people associate no doesn't mean no with consent, gay, obviously this makes him look very bad without context. But with context in the initial document and with his explanation, which basically just reiterates that, we can obviously see that it wasn't some kind of malicious evil thing. Now, another thing that Dogpack criticized Mr. Beast for was for faking his videos, right? This idea that computer generated graphics are being used for certain scenes when Mr. Beast is claiming that it's actually real. And a lot of this was debunked in the Soggy Cereal video, but Mr. Beast's response to this is basically saying that in any scenario, only about like 0.5% of a shot in the video is actually enhanced cosmetically with computer graphics to make it look better. But in actuality, the stuff is not really faked. As just one example out of many, Dogpack claimed that an explosion that was inside of a Mr. Beast video was fake, but in this new video, through the document linked in the description, Jimmy actually shared the raw footage of the video, proving that the explosion was real. Now, another CGI allegation that was made here is this idea that they used CGI to deceive viewers into thinking that the Mr. Beast charity built a hospital for people who needed one when they actually didn't build it. Now, Jimmy's explanation is that this was a dumb mistake and he didn't want to deceive anyone directly.
At the start of one of our Beast Philanthropy videos, they were trying to show what this like building looked like in the past, and in the past that hospital wasn't there, so they removed it in the editing. Which and this was just like a small part of it. This isn't even like the point of the video was that we built this hospital or whatever. There was just a shot at the beginning, but some people saw that and like thought we did build it, which is not the intention, and so it's just a dumb mistake. Like, trust me, when I saw that, I talked to the editors. I was like, come on, like, you know, I have 100 editors, and obviously we have a bunch of different channels and things like that, so it's hard for me to like speak with all of them, but it was just truthfully a silly mistake. But we never said we built that hospital or anything.
Now, people had also pointed out that in the 100 boys versus 100 girls video that Mr. Beast released, he had some of his employees and even his girlfriend competing in it, leading many to believe that he was essentially rigging the competition in their favor, or that these competitions were all fake. Now, Mr. Beast's explanation here is that they were indeed competing in this video, but it wasn't something that he was trying to hide. And his piece of supporting evidence for this is that years prior to these allegations coming out, his own girlfriend had gone on a podcast talking about how she competed in the video. The reason they had to use employees and his girlfriend was that they shot the video during COVID, and some of the people that were supposed to be contestants tested positive. Keep in mind, this was during the peak of the pandemic where everyone needed to extensively be quarantined.
I think, like, I don't think any of this was done maliciously, but it was done, like, in a way, like, I don't know, it's like ignorance of it all. And I think Mr. Beast himself, like, cops to that. But still, like, is that a justifiable reason for doing it? I don't know. I guess it's
quarantined and tested, and everyone was wearing masks. So they couldn't just pick some random person off the street. They had to pick from their pool of certified, verified American patriots. According to him, everyone who didn't have COVID already had taken a week off of work, and so Jimmy wanted to scrap the entire video.
To be fair, and I'm sure he'll get to it, but other than like the Jake thing, when like that's a he said he said thing. There's no woman involved in this, but still, he like definitely was aware of all of that. Maybe he was oblivious to how much it fucked with his mind, which I guess you can make that argument.
Went into his office and basically said, which of my employees want to be in this video, and his girlfriend happened to be one of those people who he also got in.
No, they were not there to rig it. I did not tell them when to get out. I did not tell them what to do. They had their own free will. And yeah, I really didn't think too much of it. And, you know, here we are a couple years later, and that's turning into proof that I've put employees in videos to rig them and script them, and
let's try the tree
they're just filling in for some people who got COVID.
Now, running illegal lotteries is also something that Dogpack accused Mr. Beast of, and that was a really big deal, right? This idea that Mr. Beast is running illegal giveaways that are ultimately not disclosing fully to everyone the terms and conditions of them, and not including the fact that you can enter for free. This was a huge deal from the Dogpack video. Now, when Soggy Cereal responded recently, he managed to disprove 2 of the 3 illegal lotteries, but according to him, actually one of them were still illegal. But as he does note with a case like Captain Sparkles, most YouTubers at the time didn't even know you could do an illegal lottery. They thought they were just doing a giveaway and there weren't any ethical concerns with it.
Which, on my flight back, I finally found some proof that the first illegal lottery was in fact illegal. There was no purchase necessary in the description, no mention of it at all. Yeah, it was illegal. And personally, Jimmy has to own up for it. Either by donating the amount of profit he made in that live stream to a charity, or by refunding everyone who bought a shirt in that stream, but that's like so many years ago, so I don't know if that's a possibility. Or do a giveaway live stream where everything is given away for free, with no merch sales attached. However, I do also want to note that most YouTubers, including me, didn't know that you could do something like an illegal lottery.
Now, Mr. Beast in this interview claims that he still has people looking into this situation. He doesn't know if it was illegal or not. But according to his own words and his opinion, he does not think he did any kind of illegal lottery, and he doesn't want to speculate on that. No matter what, though, he does say that if anyone took part in these giveaways and feel like they got cheated or scammed, they have a full ability to put in a refund request in the document linked below to get their money back from this situation. Now, I think that philanthropy is another big point that people use against Mr. Beast, basically saying that this is like a shield from criticism, and like, I understand the sort of weird feeling you get when you see someone publicly doing charity work and it gets a lot of attention on it and it makes them look good. But at the end of the day, my argument has always been, well, even if it does make him look good, he's still doing the charity. And realistically, those charities weren't really able to save him from these controversies that have befallen him in the past few months, right? It didn't really serve as a great deterrent, did it? Like, even if somehow Mr. Beast was using the fact he's doing charity to negate his critics, it doesn't discount the fact that he's still doing charity. Would I like him to be like, oh, all these people are fucking haters? No, but he hasn't really said that. He's still doing charity, and at this point he's not calling people who criticize him haters or calling them retarded or completely wrong at all points of time. He's doing an interview about it and responding to the allegations, which I think is good. Now, there are also several claims made saying that his philanthropy stuff is fake, with examples being the eye surgeries, the hearing aids, the 100 wells he built in Africa, etc., all of which he's able to disprove pretty accurately, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in the documents, showing that he actually did do all these charitable acts and he wasn't just faking it, which would be a crazy thing to fake. Now, another weird thing I see from people when talking about Mr. Beast doing charity work is that the only reason he does it is for a tax write-off, which doesn't really make any sense. I think a lot of people don't actually know what a tax write-off is, and they basically think it means the government reimburses you for money you spend. Like, you just spend money and the government sends it back to you, and like it's free money. Like, people have this misconception, but that's really not how it works. And the only reason I know this is because I have to do tax write-offs for my business, because I have to pay people to help me run my various channels. So for a quick little explanation, basically the way it works is, let's say you make $100,000 in profit in a year, but to get to that $100,000, you had to spend $10,000. Essentially, what a tax write-off is the government recognizes, okay, out of the $100,000 in profit, actually $90,000 of it are actually profit, and that $10,000 was spent on running the business. Therefore, the government's only going to tax you on money you actually made, as long as you inform them of your expenses. But that doesn't mean you get to magically keep the $10,000. And if you think that he's just doing the charity for a tax write-off, I mean, that's just retarded. Like, Mr. Beast could just make another YouTube channel and spend a little bit of money on it, and it would blow up, make a bunch of money, and he would easily offset the amount he's saving from these charitable donations by just having that other channel, right? That's an obvious explanation. Like, the amount of money he donates to charity is too much for it to be so convenient as a tax write-off. And in the case of Mr. Beast with this charitable stuff, it's even more of a loss, because usually when people spend money on business expenses, they're at least getting something out of it, like utilities, insurance, advertising, in the YouTube case, right? Like, when I'm paying people, what I'm getting out of paying people on a tax tax write-off or whatever is going to be like video editing work or research work or something like that, right? But in Mr. Beast's case, the money just leaves his account. Like, it just goes out into the ether to people who need it. So when you hear people say things like, this guy just does charity for tax write-offs, call them retarded, and then be sure to get them to use code TOM for 10% off at gamersubs.gg, gamersubs.gg/Tom, base mode. But Tom, Feastables uses slave labor, so charity doesn't even matter. Don't speak too soon, my sweet, sweet summer child, because Jimmy also addresses this. Basically, there were a lot of people claiming that Feastables was now using slave labor because they removed the slave-free branding from their website. And not only does Mr. Beast say this is not true, but he also goes into extreme detail about how he personally went above and beyond in ensuring that not only is the cocoa they make not created by child slaves, but also that the people making it were paid an extra livable wage by his company. And this is evident from the fact that Mr. Beast works with Tony Chocolonely, Tony's Chocolonely, whatever the fuck they are. They're one of these companies that is very heavy on their branding of using slave-free cocoa, right? Cocoa that's ethically sourced. And that's who he partners with. That is who helps him make the chocolate. So realistically speaking, there's no real reason to believe that Mr. Beast is using child labor on his chocolate. And once again, he's able to show evidence of this in this document.
I've been over there. I've worked on these farms. Literally, I mean, I could probably send you a video if you want to throw it up on screen so it's not just hearsay. But I mean, I didn't film this stuff for this. I just did it because I really wanted to know. And I mean, this is something I was working on, I mean, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day for like months straight, like 4 or 5 months, like, because I really wanted to make sure we are ethically sourced, and we have the best people in the world working on it.
Now, one of the bigger controversies that I've covered around Mr. Beast on this channel is regarding the Amazon game show allegations. Basically, there were a number of reports coming out during the launch of Mr. Beast's new Amazon series, Beast Games, of contestants being treated very poorly. Contestants not receiving food on time, not receiving medications on time, women not being given access to feminine hygiene products, stuff like that. There were also a lot of other allegations that I didn't cover so much, but basically a lot of people claiming that there were like a ton of broken bones on set, and there was like all this chaos and mayhem. Unfortunately, we didn't get a very good in-depth response from Mr. Beast here. He basically says like there's ongoing litigation, so he can't say too much about it because he's currently being sued by some of the contestants, so he can't really go out on a limb and talk about that publicly yet until the lawsuit is concluded. But a few things he doesn't point out are that, you know, firstly, it is kind of a he said, she said situation. We don't have evidence of a lot of this. And secondly, once again, it's an ongoing legal case. Him commenting on it now would be kind of dumb. But I would still like to see some kind of response in the future to this, because I think that some of the claims being made about that shit, if you remember my videos about that, were very, very, very not good. Not good. Not good look.
So
it's a bad look.
So for context, if people have 5 anonymous Beast Game employees, or not employees, 5 anonymous Beast Game contestants submitted a lawsuit, and they sent it to the press, but conveniently all the actual claims are redacted, blacked out, so you can't actually see it. And I'm not allowed to disclose what's behind those black lines.
Now, finally, to end this segment, a massive thing Mr. Beast hints at is that he could potentially be suing Dogpack in the future.
Are you going to sue Dogpack?
Well, you know, there's tons of examples of him intentionally manipulating things to not be true and posting it online.
My middle mouse
tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies, and caused a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. And don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So that's good. You know, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why. And so, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably gonna have to. I mean, it's just. I mean, what do you do if someone's just spreading misinformation about you and, you know, just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing you so much revenue? It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies. You know what I mean? It's just sad. You know, it's not a thing I take joy in, but yeah.
Yeah. So
is there like a ground floor?
Yes.
They're not done drafting it up, but once they're done, more than likely, yeah.
Okay.
Now, 9 out of 10 times when it comes to suing someone over a YouTube video, it's almost always retarded. But in this case, it may actually be somewhat fair. I mean, as he says, Dogpack's videos are such clear-cut cases of defamation that have massively affected his brand, his business, affected the charity. So he claims his lawyers think he has like a slam dunk case. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, so I don't really know. But from what I've read about defamation law, it seems to me that Dogpack did knowingly lie about several of the things in his videos. And therefore, it's very possible that Mr. Beast could have a very successful lawsuit against him if he wanted to, but it remains to be seen if that actually happens. Now we have to get into stuff that I feel like could have been handled better, or stuff that I still frankly want more answers for in regards to all of this. One of the biggest things that Jimmy did not address in this interview, and something that Oompaville didn't really even ask him about, was in regards to LaQuoya Hill and James Warren. Basically, Mr. Beast's company apparently received reports of sexual misconduct related to LaQuoya Hill, their COO at the time. A third-party investigation was then conducted, and subsequently they transferred LaQuoya to Unilingo, which was a separate company, before the alleged victim ended up quitting the main Mr. Beast company, and LaQuoya Hill was then moved back. Although the details of this investigation remain unclear.
They said, hey, you won't have to see LaQuoya again. We're gonna like move him completely out. It wasn't a secret. Like we moved him to a new company idea that we had. He was the only person in that company. He wasn't even on site. He wasn't working in the building. He wasn't anything like that. Like we just said, hey, we think this is a cool idea. Go figure it out. And so he went on his own to go figure that out. And then the assistant worked with us for a long time, and then when he wasn't here anymore, I think it was like almost a year after the assistant like had chosen to do whatever he wanted to do. Then we were like, okay, we'll bring LaQuoya back to help, because at this point there's no conflict anymore. So that's really what it was. Like it was no, oh, we're gonna go hide LaQuoya over here, and like, I mean, even now LaQuoya doesn't work for us anymore.
This was one of Dogpack's allegations that were frankly not really false. I mean, they were later confirmed to be basically true.
And there's so much behind the scenes with sexual assault, with abusing employees. He's guilty of all of those.
Did you know about LaQuoya Hill, or have you met LaQuoya or worked?
Oh, I very much worked with LaQuoya to the point where, I don't know if you saw my tweet the other day, but after that video came out, after Dogpack's video came out about LaQuoya, like all of those memories just rushed back to me, and I was just like, oh my God, he was kicked out of the company because of sexual assault.
This was made pretty clear by Kara, Jimmy's hiring manager, who ended up being interviewed by Soggy Cereal, and revealed some key details about the situation, basically reiterating the basic timeline that Dogpack was able to build from the start. Kara, whatever you want to call her, we're going to call her Car. We're going to call her Mitsubishi Evo Lancer. Oh. She says that the victim felt really uncomfortable around LaQuoya and actively avoided his presence, which could have been an indication that something serious had occurred. But ultimately, the employee did not want LaQuoya to be fired, so LaQuoya was moved to a different company. Once that employee left, LaQuoya was invited back to Mr. Beast proper.
And he was like, yeah, I don't necessarily want him to be fired, but like, I don't want to be around him. I don't want to see him. Like, it's just really uncomfortable for me, So we're like, okay, great. So like, I actually worked with him to come up with a list of like jobs that he wanted, because again, if the person who he's assisting is not here, like it's like, okay, well now what's your job? Like, so it was like we came up with everything he was interested in, like what he wanted to do and stuff like that, and moved him into a different role.
And she also corroborated Dogpack's story by confirming that the Mr. Beast company responded to this issue by, like I said, relocating LaQuoya to an off-site role and then bringing him back later. Now, additionally, Kara claims that LaQuoya doesn't work for us anymore, and further confirmation of that came from former Mr. Beast editor Trey Yates in an interview with The Asher Show. Yates claims that in July 2021, it was officially announced that LaQuoya was taking family leave from the company due to his position as COO. However, Yates revealed that a Mr. Beast employee, in his words possibly Ava or Carl, confided in him that the real reason LaQuoya was being moved around was because he was caught sexually assaulting an assistant.
It was announced in the company that LaQuoya was taking a family leave, and that family leave occurred for a month. And then someone messaged me, and I don't remember if it was Ava, I don't remember if it was Carl or someone, but someone messaged me and they gave me the tip of, hey, LaQuoya's not been on family leave for a month. He got caught sexually assaulting his assistant. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
He took his leave July, and then it was confirmed that that happened in like August of 2021.
Now, Yates reiterated that LaQuoia's departure was directly tied to the sexual assault incident, which aligns with Kara's account of him no longer being employed there. So it seems to me like there is some kind of clear, lining up with the story between what Dogpack said and what Mr. Beast said, and what was said by Mr. Beast's employees. But in regards to James Warren, who was the CEO of the Beast Company at one point in time, this was the guy that Dogpack accused of beating his girlfriend and said that there were charges against him, and then later had to walk it back because there were no charges and he removed that video. But James Warren was not really mentioned in this video at all either, and even though there was no proof from the beginning that James Warren had done anything wrong in terms of what Dogpack claimed at least, I still frankly would have liked to see some kind of response from Mr. Beast here because, it would put to bed any questions that others have. Now it's time to get into stuff that could have been pushed back on a little bit more. We have to get into perhaps the most tragic part of this video, if there ever was one, because this is the stuff I was the most interested in, which is Chris Tyson, as well as the CoffeeZilla stuff. Jimmy does briefly discuss Chris and the connection to Shadman, as well as the Shadman poster. He claims that he didn't really have any idea what he was looking at. He didn't know it was some kind of weird thing. He didn't know it was like a lolly thing.
A thing that a lot of people care about is Shadman's a fucking freak and is a disgusting person. Did you know about the painting in? Did you know about that? Have you ever interacted?
He shouldn't have prefaced that. Despite it being true, he shouldn't have. I don't know, what do you call it? Like priming the witness. It's like, oh, this person's so bad and everything. Like, did you know them? Of course, they're gonna say no. Like, what the fuck?
With Shadman before, like, what is your relation to that, and specifically that relationship between Shadman and Ava Tyson and you?
Yeah, no, that's actually a good follow-up question. So this is what it was like. I don't remember 7, 8 years ago.
So what is this
back then? I used to have like a bunch of anime posters up on the wall. I'm just like set a foundation for context. We used to have a bunch of anime posters and things like that on our wall
like
in the
way
house.
over there.
And one day, Ava put up this poster that was like an animated character holding a fidget spinner and a gun. Admittedly, it was a weird image. I didn't know who made it. I just kind of assumed it was a meme. I obviously did not know who Shadman was. I've never spoken with Shadman. I did not buy the poster or commission it or anything.
The problem here is that Oomaville didn't ask what, frankly, I haven't seen a lot of other people ask this either, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass here because a lot of people don't even know this, but a lot of people don't know that Chris Tyson was friends with a known sex offender in Delaware before Delaware got hired.
Charles was friends with Chris back in 2010, and they worked at Best Buy together for the next half a decade. This is actually how he got hired by Mr. Beast. When Jimmy's channel took off, he always went to that store as Chris's old pal prioritized the YouTuber.
Never watched. You need to. It's awesome. Everything they do is for a great cause. Mr. Beast.
I don't know what the boundary is.
It wasn't until an altercation with their previous manager that they ended up hiring him in early 2018.
So this is still a burning question in my mind, and it really sucks that this wasn't, really fleshed out in detail. Honestly, in regards to Chris Tyson in general, they barely went into any detail about the situation with him, and I wish he had gone into that a lot more. Because obviously, to this day, we don't have definitive proof that Jimmy knew 1000% that Chris was some kind of degenerate gooner talking to kids on Discord. We don't really have proof that Jimmy knew that something inappropriate was going on there. But at the same time, we don't really have any real response from Mr. Beast here either, so it's just kind of left up in limbo for what people want to decide, right? For what people want to believe. If you want to believe that there's no way Jimmy could have not known who Shadman was, considering that Chris was his longtime friend, Chris was clearly a big fan of Shadman, and there was a poster on the wall, I don't feel like I can really blame you for thinking that because it does look fucking weird, right? But at the same time, I don't have definitive proof of the fact that Jimmy knew, right? Jimmy knew, I don't have definitive proof of that. And the most recent explanation posted by Rosanna Pansino and Dogpack404 ultimately turned out to be completely bullshit and a very slanderous video where they claimed that that was the smoking gun that Jimmy knew, and then they just like reviewed a meme group chat as if it was dead to rights evidence that Jimmy knew what was going on here. So realistically speaking, there was no real solace for me there in terms of the Chris stuff. I didn't really get any more detail that I didn't already have. Now, in regards to the cryptocurrency scam allegations, which was covered recently in the CoffeeZilla video, Jimmy essentially claims that he did not control the wallet that was associated with CryptoPunks, and he didn't know what Wu-Tang was. Wu-Tang being the name of the wallet because the people running it were like a fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, the problem with this to me is that he had been on the podcast with Logan Paul earlier talking about how Gary Vee put him in a call and discussed NFTs and this new epic thing that he just had to buy because it was going to go to the moon. Like, it looks to me like he knew more than he's really letting on here, and this is his response.
These are good questions. Actually, I'm glad we're doing this follow-up thing so we can also just put all this stuff out there. So, yes, I did say that on the podcast, and I obviously did not press the buttons like I've been saying. I didn't pick what punks to buy or anything. Gary Vee, like I said on that podcast, called me and a bunch of other people, said CryptoPunks were the next big thing. I thought it was pretty crazy, but, you know, the first thing I did right after that is just called the guy in charge of the fund who invested my money and it's other people's money as well, and just said, hey, Gary Vee, you seem very passionate about these punks. You should look into it. If it makes sense, buy it. And so, you know, he did the research, picked what punks to buy, bought them. I don't even truthfully know how to buy punks. I've never bought one, like me personally. Okay. Like I've said, I don't have access to that wallet. So, I mean, in other transparency, like that's kind of high level how it went. But, you know, if he was like, oh, this is a shit investment, then he wouldn't have bought him. So, he was the one who was doing the buying and selling and managing things.
He had also tweeted a reply to a crypto account with a crazy emoji. And as a result, Oompaville ended up asking him why he had not disclosed that he had invested in this NFT and going a little bit further into these questions.
Well, I replied to the tweet, so I didn't tweet it out. And I think a lot of people, you know, that are just getting second hands of the story think I literally tweeted out, go buy Super, go buy Super. Yeah, you know, the fund did hold some Super, and I just saw that was the owner of Super, the guy who made the coin, and I just went scrolling through Twitter, just replied Super to his tweet. I did not tell people to buy Super or anything. I just replied Super, and I know the next thing where people are going to go, but this was a planned, coordinated thing. It wasn't. It's not like I'm on the phone with the people managing the crypto fund going, hey, I'm about to reply Super to this tweet. Like, I just was scrolling Twitter, and I replied Super, and, like, I highly doubt anyone bought it because they saw me reply Super to a tweet. I mean, just to be honest. So I didn't think too much of it. Obviously, though, in hindsight, I mean, I could see how people might think that is a weird look optically, and so like I wouldn't do it. But I mean, I really don't think it's that malicious. Like if I just flat out tweeted, I think Super is the next big thing. Go buy it. Super, super. Like I think this is a different conversation. That's the kind of stuff actual people do. You know what I mean? And like,
scammers.
So I just don't, so it was just interesting too because Coffee never said I was a scammer. And it's you know, there's so many comments on it. Just, you know, a lot of people just want to drive, you know, whatever. People who don't like me, like you said in the video, are not going to like me, and they're, you know, going to run with it. People who do like me are going to be like, oh, it was managed by fund, and Jimmy has answers for everything. Which, I mean, it's not excuses. I literally was just a fund. I was not the one buying or selling or anything. You know what I mean? I had other people managing it.
These are very, very vague answers, and once again, I would like to see more detail on that. There are still several questions surrounding the cryptocurrency case that I feel like Oompa could have pushed back a little bit more on here. Ultimately, I think maybe a good follow-up here would be that Mr. Beast would do an interview with CoffeeZilla. If he thinks he did nothing wrong, he could clear it up with him. I don't think CoffeeZilla has a vested interest in slandering anyone, let alone Mr. Beast. I think he just wants to know the truth. So I think if Mr. Beast wants to dispel the crypto stuff, he should be doing an actual interview with CoffeeZilla instead of talking to him through really condensed, refined statements from lawyers and his PR team. Now, overall, to wrap this up, I think that about like 70 to 80% of this interview is really good. And I do think that Oompaville did the best he possibly could in terms of prep within the 24-hour period he was given. Essentially, I think Mr. Beast said he wanted to do the interview 24 hours before. He flew to Oompaville's house, they filmed it, and then 48 hours after that, the interview was out. So that is a pretty short amount of prep time, and they did cover a lot of ground for that and answer a lot of questions that I wanted to see answered. But ultimately, a lot of what was covered was already covered in the Soggy Cereal video. And while we did get some good clarifications on some smaller points and even on like the illegal lottery thing, to get a response there was really big, I would still like to see some more explanation for the Chris Tyson stuff, for example. Some people are saying they're a bit disappointed that Oompa glazed too much. I can see why people would want him to be less jokey and friendly and be more calculated, like some kind of Charlie Rose interview. But again, he was given a one-day heads up to prep interviewing the biggest YouTuber of all time about the biggest drama of all time. So I can't fault him too much. I do have some sympathy for that scenario. You know, it's a big task. But as I said before, I still do wish that there was a little bit more pushback when it came to Chris Tyson and the crypto stuff. I feel like there are still questions unanswered there that I want to see answered. And frankly, it's kind of unfortunate that it might take another statement or another interview or two to get clarifications on that with people like, I mean, let's say Mutahar. Mutahar would be a good guy to go to for some of the Shadman stuff because he obviously has, you know, knowledge of it. He's talked about it on his channel. He'd be a good pick for that. I think in regards to the crypto stuff, CoffeeZilla is the best guy to handle that interview if he was going to do one. I also do think that Oompa could have pushed back a bit more on the Amazon lawsuit and Beast Games accusations, but it could be the case simply that Mr. Beast wouldn't have elaborated on it too much more because there is an ongoing legal battle, and the evidence we've seen so far is ultimately a he said, she said scenario, so we don't have definitive proof of anything. Altogether, though, I think this interview was a net positive, especially with the document link below with some of the evidence in here. That was very compelling. That was good to see. But there are still a few questions unanswered, and I don't know if we're going to get those answered. And I think that the best way to do that would be for Mr. Beast to talk to CoffeeZilla or someone like that. For now, all we can really do is wait to see if Mr. Beast ends up suing Dogpack and see if Dogpack ends up responding to this, and maybe he'll somehow flip the situation on its head again. Kind of have my doubts about that, but you know, there's been enough twists and turns in this entire thing that who fucking knows, right? Once again, at the end of this interview, I'm kind of left with the conclusion I came to at the end of my last video, which is that there's really no heroes, there's no villains, there's just a world of complicated people out there, and a lot of the claims made about Mr. Beast were completely false. Some of them were seemingly true, some of them are still up in the air, and that's ultimately where we're at. In a world of Edgers, Gooners, and Chris Tysons, you got to pick the one you want to be. Anyway, that's about it for today. See you in tomorrow's video.
It's pretty good. All right. That actually didn't go over anything else that I thought it would, but that's fine. Let's see what Internet Anarchist has to say.
From career-ending allegations of hiring a registered vendor, hosting illegal lotteries, and faking his videos, it's safe to say that MrBeast is currently one of the most hated creators on the platform, and his lack of response or accountability for months only made things worse. However, MrBeast has finally ended his silence and conducted a 2.5-hour interview with commentary YouTuber Umberville, where he shared his side of the story and revealed some extremely disturbing things.
This swatch does not match the color. Like some of these do, but some of the darker ones, I don't know. Like it looks like this should be like black. These swatches don't match. I see it changing, but I don't know. I still don't know what that does. Why is it turning from like red to teal? Metal just makes it reflective. Oh, this actually... Okay. It's a little bit different. So... Huh. Okay, that's cool. I like that.
Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we'll be diving into MrBeast's controversial response to the many allegations that have been undermining his reputation and legacy. Quick disclaimer, this video will be entirely focused on his response specifically, as I have another video in the works looking deeper into the allegations and uncovering or debunking them with real evidence. The Delaware controversy remains one of the most damning allegations leveled against MrBeast, marking the point where even some of his
The weird thing about that is like, okay, he denied all of that. He's like, oh, I just hired this guy. But then like Delaware's brother, cousin, whoever it was like, oh yeah, they had a sit down meeting with MrBeast's mom and then all this and that apparently never happened. So it's like, why would he say that? I don't know. For it to be so like easily debunked.
Defenders began to question his actions. The accusation stemmed from MrBeast hiring a registered offender and allegedly giving him the name Delaware as an inside joke tied to his criminal background. In his response, MrBeast refuted these claims, stating that the man's nickname was Delaware long before joining his team, and that it had no connection to his criminal record.
The big one that, I mean, videos with tens of millions of views collectively, you know, claiming I called a guy Delaware because he committed a crime in Delaware, like, you know, that is not true. His name was just Delaware. I didn't, you know, call him Delaware to make fun of him or anything.
To support this, MrBeast provided evidence showing the man had already worked at...
Hold on 1 minute, I'll be right back. Stomach is not happy with me, apparently. Sorry about that.
Best Buy prior to his employment, and was already using the name Delaware at that time. In fact, footage from one of Mr. Beast's older videos, titled "I Gave $20,000 to Random Homeless People," shows the man wearing a Best Buy name tag with Delaware printed on it.
Guys, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. I love what you guys are doing.
Say anything to him?
If anyone's never watched, you need to. It's awesome. Everything they do is for a great cause. Mr. Beast. Want my free shirt.
While this clears up the nickname's origin, it does not excuse the hiring decision itself. Mr. Beast explained that at the time he was 19 years old, his channel had just surpassed 1 million subscribers, and he was operating more like a casual YouTube team than a professional business. He admitted that background checks were not conducted, which led to unknowingly hiring the criminal.
What people are envisioning is completely different than what actually happened. Yes, I did hire him, but for the context around it, I hired him when I was 19, so I was a teenager, and this is kind of leans a little bit into what we were talking before. This is back when it was just a couple of my friends from high school, my mom. My videos were getting bigger. I needed more help. Probably should have gone on some site and hired people who had production experience, but instead I walked into my local Best Buy and I just hired multiple people. Obviously, when I was a teenager, I didn't know what a background check was. Hired a couple people there that wanted to help me make videos. One of them was the person named Delaware.
This defense, however, has been criticized for downplaying the severity of hiring someone with a criminal background, especially involving minors, given the channel's younger audience. To make matters worse, former team member Jake the Viking claimed on Twitter that MrBeast and his mother knew about Delaware's background before hiring him, a claim that MrBeast firmly denied in the interview.
I did not know he was a registered vendor. There's a rumor that's gone around that said that he sat me and my mom down and told us. Obviously, I don't remember that happening. And when I read that tweet, the first thing I did was I called my mom and I was like, hey, did this happen? Because someone's claiming this happened. My mom said, I would have literally quit or honestly probably shut the business down before I ever let my teenage son hire a registered vendor knowingly, which...
Following this, MrBeast would take accountability for hiring him in the first place and express his regret for doing so.
I take accountability. Yes, if I could go back in time, I would tell teenage me, hey, you're supposed to do background checks. 19-year-old me, he stared at retention charts all day. He obsessed over YouTube videos. He didn't know anything about running a business.
While MrBeast cleared the air regarding the Delaware situation with clear evidence and accountability, the allegations didn't stop there. Another accusation against MrBeast revolved around a poster displayed in his home, which viewers noticed was created by the controversial artist Shadman. The poster featured a cartoon girl holding a fidget spinner and a gun, and it was reportedly hung by Ava Chris Tyson, MrBeast's former employee and roommate. When asked about the situation during his interview with Oompaville, MrBeast explained that he had no knowledge of Shadman or his reputation when the poster was put up.
Back then, I used to have like a bunch of anime posters up on the wall. I just like set a foundation for context. We used to have a bunch of anime posters and things like that on our wall in the house. And one day, Ava put up this poster that was like an animated character.
Jimmy clarified that the poster wasn't purchased or commissioned by him, nor did he give it much thought at the time, because it blended in with other anime posters around the house, including ones from shows like Naruto and Code Geass.
I wish I could give more details. I mean, this was so long ago. Obviously, I don't know the like exact thoughts going through my head, but I just remember, like, I agree, it is a little bit of a weird poster, but I also think like, you know, I had like Naruto posters up, or I had like Code Geass posters, like random animes I used to watch, and like, you know, I never like reversed image search and Googled, oh, who made this Code Geass anime poster that's sitting on the wall or whatever. I don't, you know, I don't, your first instincts when you just see a poster is not to just go, who made that, and deep dive them. So
yeah, are they a pedophile? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
her buying is very weird. And like, obviously,
MrBeast also acknowledged, in hindsight, that the poster was an odd choice, especially given what he now knows about Shadman's work and reputation.
Yeah, that's fair, because I also, after all this stuff, I didn't know who Shadman was. I've heard of him a little bit on Twitter and shit, but I didn't know. Total ignorance there, so...
What makes the statement of not knowing who Shadman is questionable is the fact that MrBeast had engaged with him on Twitter. However, it could be the case that he didn't know just how evil the artist was, or is just trying to play it off with ignorance. After addressing the Shadman poster controversy, MrBeast tackled another major allegation, this time from YouTuber CoffeeZilla, who raised concerns about potential shady crypto dealings tied to MrBeast. CoffeeZilla released a video titled Investigating MrBeast, exposing alleged insider trading linked to a crypto wallet reportedly associated with MrBeast. According to the claims, MrBeast's wallet showed activity that raised suspicions of unethical behavior such as insider trading. MrBeast, however, explained that the wallet wasn't managed by him, but by a professional crypto fund he entrusted to handle all transactions. He clarified that his decision to have it managed by someone else was intentional. With his schedule packed and limited knowledge of cryptocurrency, he didn't want to risk making mistakes or unintentionally breaking the law.
The gist of this report was, Jimmy is too stupid to like make this kind of money, therefore it must be insider trading. This is his wallet, you know. Clearly there was insider trading because he never would have been able to make this kind of money. When in reality, which is what I told Coffee in that statement we gave him, it was managed by a fund. So I wasn't the one managing the wallet. You know, I've never had access to that wallet. I've never done the buying and selling on that wallet. There's a actual professional who's written books on crypto and lived and breathes crypto every second of the day managing it. So most of the allegations there like are just answered by like, I am too stupid to do that. That's why a fund was managing it. You know what I mean?
Jimmy also pointed to the sheer volume of transactions associated with the wallet, thousands in total, as proof that he couldn't have been manually handling it. He noted that many of the trades occurred when he was clearly unavailable, like during video shoots or plane rides.
That kind of time. I'm sure you could probably even look at it and see like days where I was like maybe in solitary confinement or like doing a video where I didn't even have access to a computer and there's trading.
True.
So for the conspiracy theorists that think I'm lying and using the fund as a cover up, like, I mean, there's got to be some way where you could just figure that out, like where I was on a plane ride or something.
While Mr. Beast didn't specify the name of the fund or exact instances of his unavailability during trades, his explanation does provide insight into how the allegations may have been a misunderstanding. That being said, Mr. Beast contradicted this stance when he was previously on a podcast with Logan Paul, where he shared the story of getting a phone call from Gary Vee about a particular NFT he should buy, which he even mentioned buying publicly on Twitter. This would also be explained by Mr. Beast.
Like I said on that podcast, called me and a bunch of other people, said CryptoPunks were the next big thing. I thought it was pretty crazy, but you know, the first thing I did right after that is just called the guy in charge of the fund who invested my money and it's other people's money as well, and just said, hey, Gary Vee seemed very passionate about these punks. You should look into it. If it makes sense, buy it.
That's so
and
funny.
so, you know, he did the research, picked what punks to buy, bought them. I don't even truthfully know how to buy punks. I've never bought one, like me personally.
Okay.
Like I've said, I don't have access to that wallet. So, I mean, in other transparency, like that's kind of high level how it went. But, you know, if he was like, oh, this is a shit investment, then he wouldn't have bought them. So he was the one who was doing the buying and selling and managing things.
Okay. But you did make some decisions to buy or sell in the Wu-Tang Fund.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Another claim against Mr. Beast involves the usage of CGI in his videos, sparking accusations that his content is faked, staged, and misleading. Critics pointed to certain scenes, including a claim that a hospital was digitally edited into a video to give the illusion that Mr. Beast built it himself. When addressing these allegations, Mr. Beast admitted that CGI is used in a small percentage of his videos, but clarified that it's only used to enhance certain visual elements, not to deceive viewers.
I mean, maybe like 0.5%, 0.1% of my shots. Like if we have like a background that like doesn't look too cool, like it's just like black, but it looks a little off, we'll just like darken it out in post. Like that's like majority of what we do, or sometimes we'll extend a set. But I was thinking like when we do, because bro, we pour millions of dollars into these videos. We build massive sets. Like we go through so much links to make these huge videos. And the last thing I want is people to be like, questioning whether or not things are CGI. I mean, like the sets we build are fucking crazy, man. Like it's wild. Like you should come see the like behind the scenes of it. I mean, sometimes we spend 100 days just literally building one room for one shot of one video.
That's insane.
To further address transparency, Mr. Beast revealed that he's considering adding timestamps in video descriptions to indicate when CGI is used, or overlaying a special Beast logo on CGI enhanced elements.
Potentially, I don't know. This is the first time I'm saying it publicly. Like timestamping in the description when we do.
That's interesting.
Yeah, or like having some like gimmicky thing where like whenever we do, we like put like a little Beast logo on it, so it's like a thing that if people wanted to identify, they could. I mean, I'm down to figure something out. I mean, we just don't really use it that much. It's just like a thing few and far between. But what I really don't want is people to not be able to trust my videos just because occasionally I want to make a wall blacker or like I want to extend a set a little bit just to make it look cooler and like you feel in tune with it. Because what we do on its own is insane, you know what I mean? Like we don't need it, you know what I mean?
One specific example fueling the CGI criticism was an accusation that Mr. Beast used CGI to make it seem like he built a hospital in a Beast philanthropy video. Jimmy admitted that there was an editing error in the video's opening, where a hospital was digitally removed from the shot, meant to show the before state of the location.
Honestly, truthful, dumb mistake. At the start of one of our Beast philanthropy videos, they were trying to show what this like building looked like in the past. And in the past, that hospital wasn't there, so they removed it in the editing. Which and this is just like a small part of the. This isn't even like the point of the video was that we built this hospital or whatever. There was just a shot at the beginning, but some people saw that and like thought we did build it, which is not the intention. And so it's just a dumb mistake. Like trust me, when I saw that, I talked to the editors. I was like, come on, like you know, I have 100 editors, and obviously we have a bunch of different channels and things like that. So it's hard for me to like speak with all of them, but it was just truthfully a silly mistake. We never said we built that hospital or anything, but I could see how some people might perceive that we were trying to like give off that we were.
While Mr. Beast took accountability for this error, he also addressed the structure and mission of the Beast Philanthropy channel and the negative effect it had.
My YouTube channel, how do I say this where it's like I'm not trying like cool. is literally owned by a 501c3. Like it's a YouTube channel that is a non-profit, which is crazy. Like as far as I know, that's the only one. And Beast Philanthropy does so much good, and like that. You know what's the only reason people this is what's funny, because like to the people like trying to call me evil and say we fake philanthropy, the only reason anyone even knows any of this is because we actually did a behind the scenes video on that video. So like clearly I wasn't aware of this because we did BTS and we were the ones who revealed this information. You know what I mean? So like if we were trying to hide things, like we wouldn't have done BTS on that video. That's how people got this information. So it's just like a little mistake, but it's sad because now people are using that to point at our Beast Philanthropy channel, which does a lot. I mean, it would just scroll through the videos. I mean, whether we're building schools in Africa or, I mean, and giving electricity to remote villages, or we're giving clothes to people who don't have it, or we're feeding people. I mean, it does a lot of really good projects. Now, truthfully, that channel is struggling to get brand deals because of all the slander on it, because everyone, you know, has convinced advertisers that the videos are fake and that it doesn't actually do philanthropy. And it's like, it does. And just like one little editing mistake on one of dozens of videos, like, I mean.
MrBeast also responded to allegations made by former contestant and employee Jake Weddle, who described his experience in one of MrBeast's challenges as inhumane, even using the term war crimes. The accusation was stemmed from a challenge where Jake was tasked in staying in solitary confinement for as long as possible to win a cash prize. When addressing the allegations, MrBeast first detailed the setup and the rules of the challenge.
We built a room in our studio. And then the challenge was every day you live in this room, you win $10,000. And then it was like kind of like a white padded room. There's like a pool table, a bed in there, bunch of other items, blah, blah.
MrBeast emphasized that each contestant experiences challenges differently, citing his 100-day isolation video as an example. In that challenge, participants were offered the option to turn the lights off at night in exchange for a portion of their winnings. However, the contestants declined, saying it wasn't an issue for them.
100% how something's going to affect someone, right? So similar to the Weddle video, I just want to lay the foundation before we go in specifically to that. Similar to that, we also did a video where we put did you see the video where we put two people in a room, Bailey and Susie, 100 days trapped together? So one thing that Weddle struggled with was the lights being on, and he mentioned that in the video. But Bailey and Susie, on day 20 of 100 days trapped together, I offered to turn the lights off for part of their prize pool. And they said no. And like the lights wasn't, I mean, I'm sure it was difficult, but it wasn't like that big of a difficulty for them. And so it's like something for them that's not that big of a difficulty for other people can be, you know, challenging and hard. And like what I'm trying to say is you never know how someone's gonna react to something, right? It's impossible to fully predict. And so that's one of these variables of these challenges, which is why we give people the ability to quit, you know what I mean? Or to leave at any point. And so in his video, you know, he went 11 days, won $110,000. Right? I believe it was 11 days. Yes.
Jake Weddle, however, struggled with the room challenge after 11 days. MrBeast explained that his team turned off the lights for Jake and even brought in a psychiatrist to ensure his well-being. Ultimately, the challenge was cut short, and Jake walked away with $110,000.
And then he decided to quit on that day. And, you know, he mentions this in his video, like around day 11 or 12. I don't know what the day is off the top of my head, but he was struggling, and so we did turn off the lights. We sent a psychiatrist in there to check in on him, and we were like, yeah, he's not doing too well, and we ended the challenge and we paid him. Didn't go long enough where we got a video, so we didn't end up uploading it. But I think the big thing is just that's why we allow people to leave these challenges.
Despite the money won, the footage of the challenge was never uploaded because the event didn't even last long enough to make a compelling video. MrBeast later reached out to Jake after he appeared on Dogpack's video discussing his experience, offering to help in any way he could, ultimately giving Jake an additional $50,000.
Mental stress with that video or anything, and is there any way I can help? And I ended up, you know, he seemed like he really needed some financial help, so I ended up sending him $50,000 completely off camera or anything. I mean, he talked about it publicly so people know, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure he was good.
It's safe to say that the loudest voice speaking out about MrBeast was former employee Dawson French, better known as Dogpack404, who created 3 viral videos exposing and platforming ex-MrBeast employees such as Jake Weddle to speak out against MrBeast. Since publishing his videos, creators like Soggy Cereal have since spent months investigating and debunking large amounts of the allegations and claims made against MrBeast, resulting in Dogpack's credibility being questioned and his motives of posting the videos appearing as revenge. This was even more the case after there was a leaked audio from when he was fired, where it appeared Dogpack was desperate to keep his job and genuinely wanted to work at MrBeast despite what his videos portray.
He also made life-ruining allegations against LaKoya Hill, who was the person that made the decision to fire Dogpack. Here's an audio clip from the leaked firing interview at Beast.
I'm our COO. Part of my job is pushing back on everything that we're saying. So
well, because you're trying to fire me, and I want to work at this company.
I'm the CEO of this company. If I'm talking, don't interrupt me. And I am telling you this is what's happening, and you're telling me that I'm wrong. I am not wrong. I've made the decision. Here, we will take care of.
I appreciate that. Can I please have a second chance?
It's not.
Just if I'm getting paid, just let me come in and let me try to be coachable. If Hoodie changes his mind, can I? And I've been trying to get to this point of working on Mr. Beast for a long time. I think there are other people at the company. If I were to switch departments, that would be very happy to have me. I don't care about the salary.
It's not. No. It's not gonna happen.
One of the most interesting parts of the interview was when Oombaville asked Mr. Beast if he was planning on taking legal action against Dogpack for the 3 videos he posted.
You know, there's tons of examples of him intentionally manipulating things to not be true and posting it online. Tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies, and cause a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. Don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So, you know, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably gonna have to.
According to Mr. Beast, these videos weren't just inaccurate, they were intentionally manipulative and designed to harm his reputation and businesses.
You know, just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing so much revenue. It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies, you know what I mean? It's just sad, you know? It's not a thing I take joy in, but yeah.
Mr. Beast revealed that he has consulted with several law firms, all of whom have advised him that a lawsuit against Dogpack 404 would be an easy win. However, Mr. Beast remains conflicted about moving forwards, understanding the potential negative PR impact such a lawsuit could have on his channel.
Every law firm I've talked to, they're like, this would be the easiest win they've ever seen in their life. I mean, it's like crazy. I had one tell me like, you could chop up all the evidence into like 3, sue 3 separate times and win all 3 cases because you'd have enough for each. Like, one person I was talking to, he's won like 67 out of his last 70 cases, and he's like, this would be literally the easiest case I've ever done. Like, it's because there's just so much blatant, you know, misinformation and lies spread. Like,
Mr. Beast also explained that his main concern isn't about silencing criticism, but rather protecting his employees and companies. He believes that allowing false claims going unchecked could set a dangerous precedent and harm the people who rely on his business.
It's like, I can't look at someone in the eyes and go, sorry, you're getting laid off because he decided to keep spreading misinformation about us. You know, go complain to Dogpack.
Yeah, I understand. It's like, there's a different.
This is bigger than me. I have a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of kids that, you know, work or are under, you know, the people I employ that work for me. Like, it's not just me.
Jimmy also pointed to documented proof of the financial harm caused by Dogpack 404's claims, stating that his businesses have already lost millions of dollars as a result of the videos. During this part of the interview, Mr. Beast would also go off at Oombaville when he stated he believed Dogpack had good intentions with his initial video, saying that he got completely manipulated.
You know, in the very beginning, I thought Soggy had good intentions.
Or Dog.
Dogpack. Exactly. Yeah. Soggy does have good intentions, in my opinion. In the very beginning, and now things obviously are. He's turned this into sort of his thing.
Good intentions, even though even the very first video literally was what 90% lies.
It seemed.
You got manipulated.
Yeah,
but
of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
that doesn't make it good intentions.
Yeah. I'm just saying it seemed, and a lot of people also believe that.
Was it good intentions when he photoshopped a fake live stream and falsely accused me of not saying something I did say and falsely accused something? It was a good intentions when he put a king-size Feastables bar beside a regular-size Hershey's bar and didn't disclose that and then lied about us having more sugar than them. Was it? I mean, I could sit here and do this for the next 30 minutes.
Understand.
I think that's just a misconception that everyone has. It's like there's never good intentions.
Yeah, of course. But I
watched that video and I was like, this is just lies. And everyone's like, oh my God. I was like, what?
That being, I think writing off Dogpack's entire video is unreasonable, as he did have several valid criticisms of Mr. Beast, such as his encouragement of gambling with his slot machine Feastables giveaway, as well as the first illegal lottery he held years prior. Mr. Beast also addressed the growing concerns about Lunchly, his food brand, following accusations of moldy products and rumors of a recall. The controversy around Lunchly began when several individuals individuals, including YouTuber Rosanna Pansino, posted about receiving moldy Lunchly products. This sparked widespread claims that the product line had been recalled due to quality issues. Mr. Beast directly addressed these accusations, confirming that there was no recall of Lunchly products. He explained that every product containing meat or cheese undergoes inspection by the USDA before it leaves the factory.
Well, there was no recall. I mean, that's been said, which again, it's like, it's so annoying, the disinformation, man, because that makes it seem like there's an actual serious problem. Oh, we're recalling Lunchlys, and there's a sign that, you know, I think Logan even did a video, if you want to throw up, where he like went to the store and that just wasn't real. That like someone put on like a door that said Lunchly has been recalled when the shelves are empty by the FDA, which was just a made up thing. Yeah, on the mold thing, here's the thing. We, every single Lunchly with cheese meat is USDA inspected. There is no mold when it leaves our factory. Like, we have the highest QC standards imaginable. Like, what do we have? Why would we ship that out? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Mr. Beast also pointed out that mold is not unique to Lunchly, as it's a common issue across the prepackaged food industry. He cited thousands of similar reports involving other brands, including Lunchly's competitors.
It's just, the thing is, here's a context a lot of people leave out. Look at, I don't want to name specific brands but take a specific brand that comes into your mind when you think of something like Lunchly, something that's very similar, specific brand, I don't know, other brands, competitors, and Google their name and put the word mold behind it. You'll see thousands upon thousands of examples. And that, I think, is a key context a lot of people.
You know what? Let's see. Is that true? Lunchables, actually, yeah. I don't know about thousands of pictures, but fair enough. Fair enough.
Leave out in this because they're acting like this is just the thing with us. Once it leaves your factory, you know, a truck that's delivering it could technically take a sharp turn and a box fall and puncture the seal, or honestly, even something as dumb as like when it's put on the shelves at the store. Like, I can't stop someone from walking to Walmart and grabbing a Lunchly, going to the potato chip aisle, putting it there, and then like a day later an employee going, that doesn't belong there, and put it back. And like, I mean, obviously they shouldn't do that, they should throw it away, of course, but like so there's no mold when it leaves our factories because that's just stupid. Why would we ever let that happen? But after that point, you know, there are variables that we just can't control, and that's why every single product in that section, Google it and put mold behind it.
He also stressed that while these occurrences are rare, they take each report seriously and are constantly working to improve.
But we're talking like, I mean, it's moving over 1 million units a week right now, and I'm seeing like maybe a couple examples here and there. So it's like, it's really, they would have you convinced this is like, it probably
comes with mold.
Yeah, exactly. When you're talking about very rare, and it's like, I bet you if you trace most of those cases, it'd be things like, oh, someone just like, I mean, it could even be like someone's refrigerator cut out, or they like, when they put it in their car, they like threw it in their car, and then like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, I can't control these things, you know what I mean?
Mr. Beast would also address the lawsuits and rumors surrounding his upcoming Amazon Prime series, Beast Games. The yet-to-be-released game show Beast Games has already sparked backlash, with accusations ranging from unsafe working conditions to unfair labor practices. 5 anonymous contestants involved in the production filed a lawsuit claiming unsafe conditions on set. Additionally, online rumors alleged, quote, dozens of broken bones and non-union labor used to cut costs. When addressing these claims, Mr. Beast explained that he is unable to comment on the lawsuit itself due to ongoing litigation, but firmly denied specific allegations. Jimmy also refuted the claim that, quote, dozens of broken bones occurred, stating that his team contacted every contestant involved and found no evidence to support the accusation.
So I learned a lot of little things like that, but I think in general, a lot of it's just been blown out of proportion. Like, people have claimed like we didn't use unions because I didn't want to pay people fair money, when that was just a flat out lie. We did use unions, and like that there are dozens of broken bones, and which is like crazy to think that I'd be like, oh, 10 people broke their bones, let's keep filming, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't even make sense. After like that claim came out, like we literally called 1,950 contestants of the 2,000. We couldn't get a hold of all 2,000. I couldn't find a single broken bone. Yeah, online it's being claimed there's dozens. I mean, there's so much even disinformation like that being spread.
Mr. Beast also explained that the scale of the Beast games created unprecedented logistical challenges. With 2,000 contestants, the largest number ever for a game show, unexpected issues arose during filming. One major disruption occurred when the CrowdStrike incident caused airports across the country to shut down, leaving contestants and production scrambling to manage travel and accommodation. Another issue involved a contestant who experienced discomfort due to an allergy to the provided feminine hygiene products. Mr. Beast took accountability and expressed regret about the situation, explaining that the individual she told did not alert the appropriate staff about her allergy.
When we were filming, we had obviously tons of feminine care products and stuff like that, but there was one woman who was allergic to the feminine care products, and we didn't have allergen-free ones, like tampons and pads. And she told someone, I don't know who she told, I haven't been able to find it, but I mean, I believe that she did, that she was allergic, and they didn't obviously do the logical thing, which is tell us or just drive to the local Walmart and buy some and give it to her. And so she wasn't able to get, you know, feminine care products in a reasonable amount of time, which is unacceptable.
There was also another issue regarding the $2,000 payments given to eliminated contestants, which critics suggested was hush money to discourage participants from speaking out. Mr. Beast denied this, explaining that the payments were intended as a thank you gesture for their participation and not linked to any paperwork.
We gave everyone who showed up, you could literally show up and then a second later leave and receive $2,000, which with 2,000 contestants, that's $4 million.
Yeah.
And we told everyone they were gonna get $0. This is something like, you know, this is the damned if you do, damned if you don't. So we told everyone, no guaranteed money if you show up. I'm glad you asked this. No guaranteed money if you show up. Like, you could walk away with $0. But then I wanted to surprise everyone. Gave them each $2,000, $4 million, which it's a lot of money. I could have gone and just bought a mansion instead of doing that. But what's even crazier is then people tried to, not like the contestants, but the internet and, you know, their theories, tried to frame that as hush money. Like I gave them all $2,000 to like make them happy because we didn't tell them beforehand, like to surprise them as they got eliminated. And then people are like, you just did that because of hush money. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
While Mr. Beast described the allegations regarding the Beast games as exaggerated, he also acknowledged that improvements could have been made and took a level of accountability that everyone was waiting for. Towards the end of the interview, Oompiffle would ask Mr. Beast how he feels and how he could have responded to the allegations more appropriately.
You already know what I'm about to say. We've hit it a couple of times. I wish right after we dropped the results of that investigation, I could talk a couple weeks ago. I wish I just instantly did this. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. The thing is, I've just never been in a controversy like this before, so.
The way Mr. Beast handled the allegations and his response in general made the whole situation a lot worse for him. He would even be called out on Twitter by Soggy Cereal, a creator who made a video targeting Dogpack and exposing his lies. Soggy was upset that Mr. Beast DM'd his video to a variety of creators, myself included, and Jimmy seemingly admits that it wasn't the greatest thing to do.
How do you interpret his responses on Twitter if you've seen them? Have you seen them?
Yeah, I've seen them. Okay. I mean, I interpret it as him just trying to be honest with his audience and just expressing how he feels. And I think, you know, obviously he probably, in his head, if he was even being more honest, he'd probably be like, Jimmy, why don't you just say these things? Why am I saying it? You know, and I think, obviously now that I'm here and doing this, that will alleviate it. But I can see how it feels. Like, obviously, I saw that video and it, you know, disproved. I mean, there are some things in there I don't agree with, and he does go pretty hard on me, so which people seem to forget. But there are a lot of things in there that he disproved, and yeah, I mean, I got excited and shot it over to a bunch of creators who covered the false information, and it was just like, look, you know, I could see how, you know, that looks like I'm hiding behind it. Luckily, I'm here talking to you, so yeah. I don't think that will be a problem anymore. But obviously, you know, he's not, when he tweeted that, he, you know, doesn't know we were doing this, doesn't know this is coming out. I mean, he might now, I don't, you know, you talk to him, but yeah, so like, I don't blame him. You know what I mean? It's a reasonable thing. Like, I think if I were to read a little between lines, he's just saying like, I don't want to be a shield. Jimmy, say something. You know what I mean? Like, actually go address things.
From the Delaware controversy to the allegations of CGI, insider trading, and unsafe work conditions, Mr. Beast's interview with Oompiffle wasn't perfect, but it did mention a lot of the main issues he was being criticized for. While he clarified many points and disproved several allegations, some major topics were notably absent from the conversation. One example is a CSAM claims where Dogpack alleged that inappropriate material was shared in Mr. Beast's work group group chats. These claims were debunked when the so-called CSAM image was revealed to be a legitimate magazine cover featuring Ivanka Trump at the age of 18, but Mr. Beast himself did not directly discuss this during the interview. Similar to this, the LaKoya Hill situation, where a HR investigation resulted in his temporary reassignment before returning to the team, and the allegations involving James Warren were also unmentioned. While most of these claims have been discredited, leaving them out of the discussion entirely creates a gap in his transparency. At the heart of the issue is Mr. Beast's approach to accountability. While he has taken steps to address some controversies, he often responds in a way that feels calculated and corporate, distancing himself from the genuine connection his audience once felt. Cease and desist letters, third-party investigations, and vague public statements come off as damage control rather than true accountability. Mr. Beast has built an empire, but with great power comes great responsibility. It's clear that he has failed to live up to the standards his audience and the platform expects, and his unwillingness to directly confront certain criticisms or take meaningful responsibility leaves a shadow over his reputation. At the end of the day, Mr. Beast isn't just a YouTuber anymore. He's a brand, a business, and a public figure. And while it's easy to dismiss criticism as jealousy or sensationalism, there are real legitimate concerns that he needs to address. Until then, his reputation will be damaged forever. Make sure you subscribe because I'm releasing another video on Mr.
Interesting. I didn't think about all the other stuff that he didn't cover, but he should definitely have moved or pushed back more on some of the things. But I mean, I'd say it was a pretty good interview, one way or the other. He did hit with some tough questions, I think. Let's see. Creepiest mysteries ever solved by the internet. Why not?
The internet can be a very strange place. While it seemingly is an endless source of information on just about any subject someone could think of, it also has a darker side where people can often be rather nasty to each other. Luckily, some internet users do their best to help others. A good example of this being the internet sleuths who attempt to solve cold missing person cases, or crimes where the culprit managed to get away before being identified. Number 10. The case of the disappearance of a 63-year-old woman called Susan Rainwater, who hailed from the Eatonville area in Washington, has been solved thanks to internet sleuths. Susan's husband of 30 years later told a media outlet that she would wake him up with a kiss and a cup of coffee every morning, and her daughter stated that Susan told her that she loved her every day. On the 9th of August 2018, Susan woke her husband up as normal and told him that she was going out for a ride on her bike and that she would be back in about half an hour. But soon he started to worry when she didn't come home as planned, and he got in his car to go look for her. His worst fears were realized when he noticed something by the side of the road, and when he approached, he realized it was Susan's bike. He got out and searched the area and found her lying some distance away, and to his shock, she was deceased. The Washington State Patrol responded to the scene and quickly determined that she'd been struck by a car, but the driver had fled, and the only piece of information they had was a black piece of plastic that had broken off the car when the collision occurred. One of the responding troopers uploaded a photo of the item to Twitter, asking members of the public if they could identify what type of vehicle it belonged to. Investigators didn't hold out much hope that anyone would recognize it, but felt that it was worth a try. The following day, a Reddit user reposted the photo to the What Is This Thing subreddit, and surprisingly they got a response from someone who thought that they recognized it. A user called Jeff's Nuts, who was a vehicle inspector, replied that the piece of plastic belonged to a late 80s Chevrolet CK pickup truck, and as proof, he provided a photo of his own. The trooper who uploaded the photo contacted investigators in Susan's case and relayed the information she had gathered. They then looked at surveillance footage of the area and identified a man named Jeremy Simon as the owner of an identical truck. When his truck was checked, it was found to be missing the exact piece that was found at the scene of the accident, and he was taken into custody. He was charged with vehicular manslaughter leaving the scene of a fatal accident, and possession of a controlled substance. He explained that he was a carpenter and at the time was working long hours.
Objects.
On that morning, he was heading home when he fell asleep at the wheel and struck something.
Move up,
at first, he thought he'd hit a mailbox, but when he looked in his rearview mirror, he saw a bicycle lying in the road. He immediately panicked and decided to flee. At his trial, he stated that he didn't mean to hurt anyone and that he'd been seeking help for his substance abuse problem. Simon was sentenced to 53.5 months behind bars, but since he would be part of a drug offender sentencing alternative, he would only serve half that. Susan's family wasn't happy about this outcome, but was satisfied that the culprit had been caught and could now receive the help he needed. Her daughter was heard telling Simon at his trial to do better and to live a better life. Number 9. Gang violence has claimed thousands of lives over the decades, many of which were innocent bystanders who simply got caught in the crossfire. The case involving 24-year-old Crystal Theobald is one of these tragic incidents that could have been prevented since her life was ended as a result of mistaken identity. Crystal and her family lived in Arlanza, California, and in February of 2006, her brother Robert drove away from the family's home in his light-colored SUV. He then noticed a white Ford Expedition driving around the neighborhood, and as soon as its driver spotted Robert, they started following him. He decided to try and get away, but as he sped up, the Expedition followed suit. A chase ensued, but after a few minutes of trying to get away, he finally lost the SUV. Robert didn't know who the people in the other car were, and for his own safety, he wasn't planning on finding out. He made it to his daughter's mother's house and was thankful to be safe. But unbeknownst to Robert, the white Explorer was still driving around the area when Crystal arrived at an intersection with her boyfriend and other brother, Justin, in the car with her. Her mother, Belinda, was following in her own car and stopped at the same intersection when a man got out of a white Expedition, walked up to Crystal's car, produced a firearm, and started firing at her SUV, which was similar in color to Robert's. Crystal lost her life in the incident, and her boyfriend was wounded. Belinda noticed the entire incident but was powerless to do anything. The man then got back in his vehicle and fled the scene. During the investigation, it came to light that members of a gang called 5150 had been cruising around the area looking for someone in a similar vehicle who performed a hit on the gang earlier that day. They mistook Robert's and Crystal's cars for the vehicle in question, and without making sure of who was in the car, decided to open fire. Belinda was determined to find the gangsters responsible for ending her daughter's life, and together with Crystal's cousin Jamie, she set up 2 fake MySpace accounts, one of which had a photo of Crystal but not her name. Before long, she started speaking to William Jokes Sotelo, a member of the 5150s, and she managed to get him to admit that he was the driver and the owner of the Expedition. She then forwarded this information to investigators, and Sotelo was brought in to be questioned. Sotelo revealed that a man named Julio Heredia was the one who had fired at Crystal's car. After Sotelo was released, he fled to Mexico and wasn't seen again for about 10 years. 2 brothers, William and Manuel Lemos, were later identified as also being in the car during the crime, and they later testified against Heredia. He was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, with an added 95 years to life and 43 years tacked on. Sotelo was later apprehended after Belinda received an anonymous tip on his whereabouts, and he was sentenced to 22 years behind bars. The Lemos brothers avoided prosecution since they decided to testify against their fellow gang members.
Can't do that.
Number 8. On the 29th of October, 2006, 2 men were target shooting in the woods of Kilgore, Texas, when they noticed a fire deeper into the woods. They decided to investigate but could never have prepared themselves for what they found when they reached the fire. The fire had been started intentionally, since wood had been piled up and set alight using gasoline, which was evident from the gas can lid that was lying nearby. But inside the fire, they spotted a body and immediately notified the authorities. It was obvious to investigators that someone was trying to dispose of evidence after ending the woman's life, but they had no idea who she was. It was determined that she was likely in her early 20s, and when items of clothing that were found at the scene were searched, they found about $40 in one of her jean pockets. They also found a purple sweater, but neither of these items was useful in determining her identity. Whoever the culprit was, they had started the fire just minutes before the two men came across it, and the hunt was on to find them. But with very few clues to follow, the case soon went cold. It was believed that the woman lost her life at around 10 a.m. the previous day. She was estimated to have weighed around 110 pounds, stood around 5'4", and thanks to her perfect teeth was thought to have come from a middle-class family. Biological material was also found at the scene, and was preserved in hopes that it could identify the culprit. Residents in the area told investigators that they had seen several suspicious people in the area that day, but couldn't identify anyone specifically. The woman's DNA was entered into several different databases, but returned no positive results. Facial reconstruction was performed, giving investigators an idea of what she looked like, but they were no closer to identifying her or capturing her attacker.
It's a very tall head.
But then, the case caught the attention of an internet sleuth named Kevin Lord, who'd spent a lot of time online trying to solve cases where unidentified victims remained unidentified. He got in touch with one of the investigators in the case, Lieutenant Eddie Hope, and they then contacted the DNA Doe Project, which aids in identifying unknown victims of crimes. They then set up a crowdfunding campaign and managed to raise enough money for the woman who is now being called Lavender Doe's DNA to be analyzed once again. From there, they were able to create a family tree and got in contact with some of her distant relatives. As a result, she was finally identified as Dana Lynn Todd, and her family was notified. A man named Joseph Wayne Burnett eventually confessed to attacking Dana and ending her life. He also confessed to ending the life of his former girlfriend, Felicia Pearson, in 2018. He told investigators that he met Dana when he was at a Walmart. She was selling magazine subscriptions, and he managed to convince her to get into his car. He claims that she stole some of his money while in his car, and he then decided to end her life. Dana's family struggled to come to terms with her passing, but was grateful that her case had finally been solved. Burnett pleaded guilty to both homicide charges, and he was sentenced to 100 years in prison. It may have taken 12 years, but thanks to internet sleuths working together with law enforcement, Dana was identified, and her attacker was brought to justice. Number 7. The disappearance of Linda Pagano, who hailed from Akron, Ohio, is one that has baffled her family and investigators since 1974. But thanks to a keen internet sleuth, investigators were finally able to make some headway. The case started on the 1st of September of that year, when Linda attended a concert, but when she got home later than she was supposed to, it caused some friction in the family's home on Carnegie Avenue. She and her stepfather got into a heated argument that resulted in him telling her to leave the house, which she then did while still angry. It was a decision that he would come to regret, as Linda never returned home and her fate remained unknown. During the investigation, her stepfather told investigators that she left the house on foot, but that he didn't know where she planned to go. Her brother Michael immediately had a bad feeling about her disappearance. He and other members of their family suspected that her life may have been ended, and that her stepfather may have been responsible, but no evidence to support this theory was ever found. The resulting searches turned up no further clues, and no one came forward to report that they'd seen her after she walked away from the house. The case went cold, and Linda's mother passed away without ever finding out what happened to her. Her stepfather passed away in 1990, and Michael was certain that he would pass away one day without his sister being found, but thankfully he was wrong. More than 40 years after she went missing, the case would see new life when a Reddit user with the username CallMeIce took an interest in the case. She learned that on the 5th of February, 1975, 5 months after Linda disappeared, 3 boys were walking along the Rocky River in Strongsville when they came across skeletal remains, and they immediately contacted the police. The scene was thoroughly searched, but no evidence was found to identify the deceased person. When an autopsy was performed, it was determined that the remains belonged to a woman in her late teens or early 20s, and that her life had been ended with a firearm. The case now became a homicide investigation, but there were no leads to follow. Years went by, and eventually decades passed without any new developments. No one claimed the remains, which were then buried in Highland Hills, and the deceased woman was given the moniker Strongsville Jane Doe. It seemed that the case would never be solved, but that was when the internet stepped in. Call Me Ice was browsing through old cemetery records when she stumbled across the details of Strongsville Jane Doe's burial. She then found the autopsy report and a photo of the remains, which was then used to create a facial reconstruction. The Doe's details were then added to the NamUs database, and she forwarded the details to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office. In 2016, the Akron Police Department believed they'd found a match after they noticed some similarities between the Strongsville Jane Doe and Linda's case. The remains were exhumed and sent for DNA testing. The results showed that they belonged to Linda, and against all odds, she'd finally been found. Michael was overwhelmed by the news and had a chance to meet Call Me Ice, who turned out to be a woman named Christina Skates, and he was able to convey his gratitude that she had taken an interest in his sister's case. Number 6. It isn't only members of the public who use the internet and social media to raise awareness, and hopefully solve cases that have left investigators stumped. One case involving 24-year-old Mike Pimentel from Liberty Village in Toronto, Canada, was solved thanks to a detective who decided to reach out to the public via Twitter, now known as X. On New Year's Day of 2012, Mike was leaving the Liberty Grand Banquet Hall at Exhibition Place after celebrating the arrival of the new year. But he somehow got separated from his group of friends and they were unable to find him. Later that morning, at around 3 a.m., someone stumbled across Mike near Liberty Street and realized that he'd been injured. The police were called, and it was determined that Mike had been attacked with a sharpened blade. He was rushed to the hospital but sadly passed away soon after. The case had now turned from an assault investigation into a homicide case, and the police started hunting for clues. Footage from the night in question showed a man who they considered to be a person of interest, and images were released to the public along with an appeal for anyone who recognized him to come forward. They described the man as Caucasian, in his mid-20s, standing between 5'6" and 5'7" inches tall, with short hair and a slim build. But no one came forward, and the investigation ground to a halt until Detective Staff Sergeant Tam Bowie decided to approach it from a different angle. He and his wife had been listening to a podcast called Serial, which discusses unsolved cold cases. He usually found these cases to be complicated and sometimes boring, but noted that the podcast summed all the details up nicely, which seemed to grab their audience's attention. He decided to use social media in the same way and started uploading information and photos from Mike's case to Twitter. First was a photo of a woman who was seen with a person of interest. A week later, he added more photos, this time of items found at the scene, including a hair extension that had biological material on it, a pair of black high-heeled shoes, and a bunch of keys attached to a keychain of the Moroccan flag. He uploaded more information every Saturday, and before long, social media users were hooked by the mystery. Tips and inquiries started flooding in, and eventually investigators got a break in the case, though they didn't disclose which of the tweets had resulted in the needed information. They discovered that the man they were looking for was 30-year-old Sean Poirier, who was then taken into custody. Poirier stated that he acted in self-defense during a street fight that had broken out between him and Mike, and he pleaded not guilty to a charge of second-degree murder. He says that he and the woman in the photos, his girlfriend Sasha Harton, had been bar hopping, and when he stopped to relieve himself on a street corner, they were confronted by Mike, who Poirier claimed started screaming at them. He added that after Mike threw him to the ground, he grabbed his blade from Harton's purse and used it to fight back, resulting in Mike's injuries. Mike then simply turned and walked away from the fight. When asked why he didn't report the incident, Poirier stated that he had a criminal record and was worried that the man may have succumbed to his injuries. The trial resulted in a mistrial, and when a new trial was scheduled, Poirier was given a lesser charge of manslaughter, to which he pleaded guilty. He was found guilty and sentenced to 4 years, 4 months, and 10 days in jail. But since he'd already spent time in prison awaiting his trial, he only had 1 day left to serve. Number 5. When a loved one passes away, those who mourn them often find solace in the possessions that they left behind, as it serves as a reminder of who they were and what they meant to those around them. This could take the form of jewelry, a vehicle they used to drive, or letters that they wrote to loved ones. But in the case involving a grandmother named Dorothy Holm, one of the possessions that she left behind after passing away from a brain tumor in 1996 left her family baffled for nearly 2 decades. In the weeks leading up to her passing, the tumor had rendered Dorothy unable to speak, and instead she'd used index cards to write her thoughts down and to communicate with her family who was caring for her. After her passing, her children found these cards and discovered that one stood out among the rest. The card didn't have complete sentences like the rest, but instead contained some kind of code. Her granddaughter, Jana, and her cousins were still young at the time, but they did their best to decipher the strange writing, only to come up short. The writing was strange as it contained backwards commas and breaks that seemingly had no functions, and they were forced to admit defeat. The card was put away in a safe place and remained there for years until Jana's father happened upon it again years later. Jana was reminded of the code, and she decided to have another attempt at deciphering it. She joined a site called Metafilter, to which she posted the following, saying, quote, "My grandmother was alive from 1927 to 1996 and lived in Minnesota. Her 3 children were born in the 50s, and most music in the house would have played in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. I don't have any of her other index cards, but my aunts may have some. None of them match each other, and the card does not include anything that her husband recognized. There are no family member initials, etc. The letters Z, X, and Q never appear. Y only appears in the last line." Jana was of the opinion that Dorothy had written the letters down so that she could remember the lyrics to her favorite songs, but she was unable to match them to any songs that she knew her grandmother listened to regularly. As soon as the image was uploaded to the site, users, known as Mephites, took an interest, and the race was on to see who could crack the code first. The mystery of the strange writing had bothered the family for 18 years, but it took internet users just 13 minutes to arrive at the correct answer. One user mentioned the first few letters on the card, which were OFWAIHHBTN, and asked whether Dorothy was a religious woman. Jana replied that she was, and that's when the mystery was finally solved. The users revealed that the letters were the first line in the Lord's Prayer, reading, quote, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." The mystery was then finally solved, and Jana was delighted to learn that Dorothy used the cards as a type of cheat sheet to remember the Lord's Prayer up until her final days. Number 4. WebSleuths.com is a well-known site on which members of the community try to solve missing person cases and other crimes that have gone unsolved, some for decades, and they've seen a lot of success over the years. They were responsible for solving the mystery of a missing woman named Tammy Jo Alexander. Tammy grew up living with her mother and stepfather, but eventually left to live with her grandmother after her mother became addicted to medication that had been prescribed to her, causing her to have violent outbursts. In the years that followed, her mother started working as a waitress at a truck stop, and when Tammy was in her teenage years, she returned to Brooksville, Florida to live with her mother, but her time there was far from pleasant. She was in the habit of running away from home at times and was known to hitchhike as far as California, usually with one of her friends. On most occasions, she would contact her family once there, and they would then buy airline tickets for the girls to return to Florida. In 1979, she ran away once again and was never seen or heard from again. Her family had no idea where she had gone, and her mother would eventually pass away at the age of 56 without ever finding out what had happened to her. In November of that year, a farmer was walking alone on one of his cornfields next to the Genesee River in Caledonia when he spotted a red piece of clothing. Thinking that he may have come across a hunter who was trespassing on his property, he went to investigate, but was shocked to find the body of a young woman. He called the police, who rushed to the scene and found that her life had been ended with a firearm. Her pockets had been turned out, and hence it was impossible to identify her, so she was given the nicknames Caledonia Doe and Cali Doe. Unfortunately, it had been raining heavily in the area, and much of the evidence, such as DNA that may have been left at the scene, had been washed away. Carl Koppelman, a moderator for the Web Sleuths website, came across the case of Cali Doe and managed to complete a facial reconstruction, giving members of the website a good idea of what she would have looked like when she was alive. Then, in 2014, he stumbled across the case of Tammy's disappearance, and he immediately knew that she was the woman who was found in Caledonia. He contacted the authorities and informed them about what he had found. Until she was identified, the remaining members of her family assumed that Tammy had run away to start a new life somewhere else, since she could no longer stand living with her mother. It was then determined that she'd traveled to the New York State Thruway, likely with someone who'd picked her up while hitchhiking. They were sure of this since investigators found a keychain with her remains, which was sold at vending machines along that route at the time. Over the years, more than 10,000 leads were followed, but they never resulted in Tammy being found. Strangely, Tammy's mother never reported her as missing, likely because she was in the habit of running away. Though if she had done so, the case may have been solved much sooner. A composite sketch was compiled of a man who was seen with Tammy at the diner. A waitress who worked there gave a description, and the sketch was released to the public, but her attacker has never been identified. Number 3. Tara Grinstead grew up in Hawkinsville, Georgia, with her best friend Maria Woods. Maria says that Tara had the biggest smile she'd ever seen, and had the ability to make anyone feel better when they were going through a tough time. In 2005, she was attending night school since she wanted to obtain a specialist degree, which would help her achieve her dream of working in education, specifically as a school administrator or principal. But before this, she managed to obtain scholarship money by competing in beauty pageants, and in 1999, she won the Miss Tifton pageant, which afforded her the chance to compete in the Miss Georgia competition, which was also held that year. Although she didn't win, she achieved her goal of making it that far. When she eventually retired from these competitions, she mentored other pageant hopefuls, teaching them how to conduct themselves during interviews, how to do their makeup, and so forth. She was in a relationship with an Army Ranger called Marcus Harper for 6 years, but since he spent a lot of time out of the country, they eventually split up, and the breakup left her distraught. By this time, she was 30 years old and had started working as a history teacher at Irwin County High School, and was the coach of the school's cheerleading squad. Her life was following the path that she had intended it to, but in October of 2005, everything changed. On Monday, the 24th of October of that year, she failed to show up for her classes, something that was very out of character. The school contacted her friends and a neighbor, but no one had seen her, and the police were called. They traveled to Tara's house and managed to make their way inside. There was no sign of her, but they found that her bed hadn't been made, and that her bedside lamp had somehow been smashed. The surrounding area was searched, and in the house's front yard, they found a single latex glove. While investigators initially believed that she'd left the area of her own free will, the discovery of the glove suggested that something more sinister had taken place. DNA found on the glove was sent to be analyzed, and when the results came back, they showed that Tara's DNA was present, along with that of an unknown man. The man's DNA didn't match anyone in the database, and with no further leads, the case went cold. It caught the attention of Payne Lindsay, the host of the Up and Vanished podcast, which has a following of millions of people. He often spoke about Tara's case, raising awareness about all the facts and clues that were found. His vested interest in the case drew the attention of Maurice Godwin, a private investigator who'd been working on the case for over a decade at the request of Tara's family. He contacted Payne, and together they started looking at the case again, starting from the very beginning. They looked at new leads that had come in thanks to the podcast. While all of the details had not been released, Georgia police were able to identify a suspect in the case and announced that a man named Ryan Duke had been taken into custody. It was discovered that he was one of Tara's former students, and a week later, a friend of his, Bo Dukes, was also arrested. It was then revealed that Ryan Dukes had broken into Tara's home, and when he was discovered, he ended her life. He then confessed to Duke, who has no relation to him, and together they disposed of her body on a nearby farm. The attention garnered by the podcast had prompted Brooke Sheridan, Duke's girlfriend, to contact the police, and she revealed that he'd confessed to her that he was the culprit.
I need another one of those.
Agent J.T. Ricketson from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation stated that the media and the podcast were instrumental in bringing the two men to justice. Duke was acquitted of ending Tara's life, but was ordered to spend 10 years in prison for hiding her body. Number 2. It must be a harrowing experience for the families of a missing person to wonder for years on end what happened to them, and in some cases they never receive the answers that they're so desperately looking for. One such case started on the 29th of December, 2013, when 59-year-old Navy veteran Donnie Irwin woke his wife up at around 6 a.m. and asked her for a gift card that they had received. He told her that he wanted to use it to buy cigarettes from a gas station about 5 miles from their house in Camdenton, Missouri. She got up, gave him the card, and since it was early, went back to sleep. When she woke up later, she was surprised to find that Donnie wasn't home, which she found strange since the gas station was close to the house. She contacted the police and one of her friends, Mindy Sales, and Donnie was reported as missing. Investigators scoured through CCTV footage of the area, but he was never seen on the route to the gas station, and it was believed he never made it that far. No further clues were found, and it was suggested that he may have ended up in one of the Ozarks lakes. Teams of divers hired by Donnie's family periodically searched the waters for over 4 years, but to no avail, as no sign of him was found. It was noted that Donnie suffered from PTSD, and that he had other mental health issues, but it wasn't known whether this played a part in his disappearance. Then, in 2022, the case caught the attention of a YouTuber named James Hinkle, who had a history as a firefighter, rescue scuba diver, and drone operator. Since Donnie's disappearance had taken place close to his home, he decided to investigate it, and he traveled to the Ozarks with his kayak, diving equipment, and a drone. He searched through lakes, drove around back roads, and even dove into flooded quarries for several months, uploading his efforts to his YouTube channel. Then, in December of 2023, James was flying his drone above a pond near Donnie's home when he spotted the silhouette of a car beneath the water. He contacted the police, who recovered the car, a Hyundai Elantra, and the remains that it contained. They realized amongst the remains there was an artificial hip that matched Donnie's, and it was confirmed that Donnie's disappearance had been solved. His family was informed, and they stated that it was the best Christmas they'd ever had, as they finally knew what had happened to Donnie and now had a sense of closure. It isn't known how his car ended up in the pond, but investigators don't suspect foul play and believe it was likely due to Donnie losing control of his car. Hinkle stated that he plans to continue working on other missing person cases in Missouri, and that he was elated to have helped bring this decades-old mystery to a close. Number 1. When a missing person case has been cold for many years, investigators often find themselves too busy with new cases to spend much time trying to solve them. And for decades, no progress is made. One such case involves Maureen Therese Sherman, a 47-year-old woman who disappeared from Miami on the 1st of May, 1985. Her family was very concerned for her well-being at the time, since she wasn't in the best state of mind, and had mentioned that she was contemplating driving her car into a canal near her home. On the day that she went missing, she got into a red Plymouth Reliant K station wagon and drove away from her home, never to be seen or heard from again. Her family reported her as missing, and a search was organized, but no clues were ever found, though her family did suspect that she'd followed through on the threats that she had made earlier. For the next 4 decades, Maureen's family wondered what had happened to her. No leads were ever found, no witnesses came forward to report that she'd been spotted, and subsequent searches were unsuccessful in locating her. Then, in January of 2024, 2 volunteer dive teams called Sunshine State Sonar and Adventures with Purpose decided to look into the case. Both teams have YouTube channels to which they upload similar cases where they search waterways, lakes, ponds, and rivers for people who have gone missing and were never located. Given that as many as 90,000 people who are reported missing every year in the US are never found, their mission is undoubtedly a noble one, and they've seen a lot of success in the past. Some of the cases that have been solved with the help of Sunshine State Sonar include the disappearance of Bernie Novick, who was found in 2024, Eduardo Guaterol, who was missing for 6 years before being found, Kareem Tisdale, who was found after being missing for 19 years, and Karen Moore, who disappeared 22 years ago, among many others. As for Adventures with Purpose, they were instrumental in solving the case of Kylie Rodney, who disappeared in 2022, Diedrich Smith, who disappeared in October of 2006, Vietnam veteran Thomas Thornton, who went missing in Shelby County in March of 2021, and Carrie Mae Parker, who disappeared in her Buick in 1991, to name but a few. On the 5th of January, 2024, the 2 teams of volunteers decided to search a canal near Maureen's house, and after just 6 hours of diving through the murky waters, they came across a car that resembled the Plymouth that she was driving. They noticed that the car's windows were still down, and so assumed that whoever was driving would still be inside. They contacted the police, who then extracted the vehicle from the canal, and they could now start the process of identifying the remains that were found inside. Thanks to part of the car's license plate and the remains within the car, it was confirmed that Maureen had finally been found, and her family was able to lay her to rest as they had hoped to do for the last 40 years since she disappeared. That same weekend, the two teams were able to find another 3 people who had disappeared, and eventually located 5 missing people in a span of just 6 days.
That's wild.
They continue with their mission and hope to bring closure to many more families in the years to come. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to
I don't know what happened.
Life is a fragile experience.
Sounds like Harry Potter.
It is unpredictable even at its best of times. Relationships are broken, loved ones are lost, and
yeah, no shit.
In some cases, families are torn apart. But what if you could change all of that
over here
and start anew?
This shit changes my monitor every time.
Free from the unpredictability and irreplaceability of the real world. With financial support from Deep Sleep Enterprises, we have developed immersion technologies far beyond those of our competitors, providing an experience almost completely discernible from reality.
On January 5th, 2018, a channel would spread on YouTube by the name of This Room Does Not Exist. At the time of writing, the series contains 15 interwoven uploads that all tie together a beautifully constructed and ongoing storyline. Taking place in an alternate near future, a company by the name of Deep Sleep Enterprises, run by a man named Miller Vincent, has birthed a new virtual reality technology called the Interior that allows you to not only experience something audio-visually, but with the added realism of every other sense, in an entirely new and perfectly simulated world. This was done with the primary goal of allowing humanity to live their life in guaranteed virtual safety, free from all the perils of an increasingly uninhabitable Earth. The entire basis of their company operates on one simple principle: your world, your life, your mind, your way. In this investigation, I was assisted by a Discord user by the name of Calcium, whom really helped me in constructing a logical timeline for the series. For ease of clarity, I'll be presenting each entry to you in the alleged chronological order from the timeline that I constructed. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you all to the world of the Interior.
The initial load is so fucking long.
The series chronologically kicks off with the introduction of two very prominent characters by the name of Ryan and Abigail in an upload titled Archive 1. Before we dive into the story behind this video, we have to notice one major detail at the start of this upload. This footage is archived and is being transmitted to us somehow from the interior system itself. This is a major plot device to remember for this series, as it's the basis for how this entire story will play out. The upload sets us off with Ryan front and center filming a series with Abigail. The episode largely serves the purpose of character development and gives us a direct lead into the lives behind them. Jumping to the end here, we can begin to notice that this broadcast from the interior begins to glitch, and we're able to observe a very troublesome scene where Abigail is running from someone or something.
Mom, we have to go! There's no time!
Why do I have like 5 fucking monitors? What the fuck does that even mean? Why? What is happening to this? I'm so
Archive
confused.
2 from the interior takes place with Ryan and Abigail at a coffee shop. We can notice straight off the bat that the descriptions of each video seem to contain vital bits of narrative that will undoubtedly come into play later. On this video, we have a conversation between an L and an A. Who these people are is to be determined, but at this point in time, their conversation reads as such. Remote server managed to copy some more footage over. Slightly corrupt, but might be of some use to you. Thank you so much. I wish he was this happy now. I'm on my way. Taking place 3 months after Archive 1, it appears that the pair are on some sort of break from their film project, enjoying some relaxation at a coffee shop. While nothing out of the ordinary seems to happen outright, a very important bit of foreshadowing is given by the dialogue from Ryan.
So there is apparently this new VR thing. VR. Look, it's going to be at the Technology Expo pretty soon, so we should probably go there, and you could film it for like one of the vlog episodes or something like that. Something like that. It like simulates the entire body, so like everything that you touch and stuff like that. They're mainly using it for like, I guess they're probably going to end up using it for like military stuff or something, but it's really good. We need to try that. Yes, we must do that.
A new virtual reality, huh? Interesting. From here on out, the timeline begins to get tricky. For help along the way, we're going to continually reference the system interior time to give us a sense of progression. Straight out of the gate in this video, we can see that this begins 5 days after the interior's time was freshly reset. Here, we're met with a rattled Ryan as he gives a monologue to a certain someone that might seem familiar.
Okay.
We've moved. Again. My mum says it's for the best. But it's not. It's really not. Ever since Amy disappeared, it's just been this constant pattern of arrive, leave, and move, and arrive, and leave, and move, arrive, leave, move, arrive, leave, and... I don't know how long we can keep looking. Searching for something that isn't there.
Going into the description of this video presents a bit of text from a guy named Leo, and it reads, "Copying these files from their remote server has compromised our safety, but I understand how much this means to you. I'm glad to see he still thinks about you." Now, wait a minute. Leo, Amy, L, and A. So these are the people from the descriptions in the Archive series. Okay, now who are they? Towards the end of the video, Ryan begins to finish his monologue before the interior becomes strangely sentient and aware of something going on that definitely shouldn't be.
She's in a better place.
Unauthorized data transfer detected.
not seen this
Tracking
before?
internet protocol
I guess it's pretty
address.
old.
The auto broadcast subseries is where things begin to become tangential. Seemingly taking place in the lives of our Leo and Amy, we have a side set of videos that showcase their whereabouts. In Auto Broadcast 0, we can see a first-person feed of what seems like someone panicking and hiding from someone or something. We can assume
Alright,
here that
dynamics,
this is
that means
Leo.
it should move, right?
Interestingly though, time seems to
pretty
be
sure.
warping as well,
Alright, that may
giving
be
us the
my
impression that this
issue.
is all happening inside the interior itself. Going into the description of this one shows us that this is indeed Leo, and he managed to broadcast his, quote, live feed to Amy.
There we go.
Everywhere.
Now, what is he running from? And why? Jumping forward, in Auto Broadcast 1, we're greeted with a video of somebody running from something outside. Much like Auto Broadcast 0, they appear to be panicked and are trying to hide the best that they possibly can. We can use the description of this video to make the definitive connection that this is indeed footage from Amy, and Leo is expressing clear concern of her running around during daylight hours. We can now draw the conclusion that the in-game characters are able to transmit their feeds to one another in real time. However, the question I'll leave you with here is, why are daylight hours an issue? Let's press on. If we're still going by the interior time, then I believe that the media advertisement is the next video in the lineup. Taking place just 8 days after the events of Auto Broadcast 1, we have a very ominous advertisement with a notable message awaiting us.
The Earth is no longer safe.
I will get you out soon. This is the video where I begin to have questions. Did Amy somehow escape the interior? Looking at the description of this one presents us with a short message from her, and it reads, I can't believe we were this desperate, that we would sign our lives away just to survive. I've almost reached your location. Hang tight. Either here, Amy has escaped the interior single-handedly, or she's actively making her way to either Leo or Ryan inside of the interior in hopes of showing them how to escape with her. In Auto Broadcast 2, we're met with an unnamed third party that seems to be outside of the interior in the real world. In the description, we have Amy and Leo having a conversation about this person. Here, Leo asks Amy if that's her and that he hasn't reached that location yet, to which he denies. She then goes forth claiming that they didn't touch anything, except that drive. Leo then responds saying that we need that back. Any missing files could cause a system terminal error and a cold reboot. Square one. Strangely, and what begins to boggle my mind here is the idea that maybe the interior is also able to broadcast feeds from the outside world. What begins to kill this for me though is that last line in Leo's response. He claims that, at least the system got the transport running again. I'll be there ASAP. This strongly implies that whatever this third party did somehow accidentally got the interior transport system up and running again. Is this some sort of bug that was accidentally programmed into the interior when it was originally designed? It would almost make sense, given that this interior universe seems to be a one-to-one recreation of the real world. What if these people are finding loopholes in the system and exploiting them to their benefit? The most logical way to explain this episode would be that Amy and Leo are actively trying to make their way to this location in the real world, are watching what's happening on the interior, and begin to broadcast this random guy's feed from the inside. That would be the only sensible thing that I can think of so far in this timeline, without throwing it completely out of order. This actually leads me to a point that I want to make for the next video in this timeline. Media note. Here, we're able to, for the first time since the Archive series, see Abigail wandering around in search of someone or something. Strangely, we haven't yet heard much from her up to this point, and can assume that she's lost somewhere within the interior. Interestingly here, we have a message that's broadcast by the system. It seems that they're finally catching on to the tampering that's been going on by Leo, Amy, and now this third party, as they exploit loopholes within their system. At the end here, we can see a message that says, "It's fine," and couldn't hear us anyway. Which implies that one of the three that are tampering with this are explicitly doing so with some level of outside exploitation. But what? In Interior Log 2, we're immediately shown a girl running next to what seems like either a factory or the headquarters of Deep Sleep Enterprises. Either this is Abigail or Amy. It isn't definitively stated. We do have one hint in the description of this one from Leo, however. He claims that, "I don't know if you're still alive anymore. If you are, I've managed to copy over some logs from their northern interface." Either this is a reference to Amy being in trouble and running away from something in the opening shot, or this is Abigail. Like I said, it isn't exactly definitive here. Anyway, after this, we're introduced to a character named Mitchell. Judging by the later shots of the, quote, live feed, he seems to be in the interior as well. We can see him actively searching for someone or something, and midway through the episode, we can see a peculiar situation play out.
That's static.
So, somehow the interior has control over the order of how certain things play out. We were just shown Mitchell exploring a hallway, entering a room, and becoming Ryan? Somehow, the system glitched, and before anything further could carry on, the interior restored itself to the moments prior to this, setting Mitchell off in the hallway once more. Afterwards, he enters the room again, but this time, he's greeted by 3 others.
It's Mitchell.
It's fine. Felix, Ford, Mr. Ford. Give us a Ford. Oh, Mitchell. I wasn't expecting you.
Mitchell, it's like 9:30. You said you'd be here at like 10.
So what? Does it matter if I'm a little bit early?
Maybe I don't even need that.
Because we need to talk about this.
Talk about what?
Ryan. Have you seen Ryan at all? Like, I mean at all. No?
So it seems that he's actively looking for Ryan as well. Interesting. In Interior Log 3, we're greeted with Mitchell once more. Here, the video opens with him entering what appears to be the interior facility, in-game, after business hours. Strangely, he's able to just waltz on in there with no issue. I believe that it's at this point where he's able to rummage through the facility to successfully gain any sort of valuable insight or keys to exploiting the system in any way that he can. Concurrently, while this is happening, Ryan is being interrogated by what we can assume is the interior staff. Here, he claims that he was once friends with the CEO's son, and this, right here, could explain why he's such a prominent character that's sadistically being experimented on and studied by this company.
I am out of my own.
Anyways, I asked him if he wanted to come to my place, and he wanted to, but he was busy. His dad's the CEO of some tech company, so his dad's all really serious about curfews and all that sort of stuff, but for a first date, that was fuck, that was something.
The next major video in this timeline is called System Love. In the description, we have what appears to be a few lines of code from what we can presume is the interior. It seems that they're performing a system sweep and are attempting to rid of Ryan entirely. The video opens with him giving a monologue about the interior system and what he's learned so far within himself. Here, he seems strangely calm. At the end, we're shown a cut to a direct live feed of Ryan in some sort of purgatory. It seems to me that the interior system is aware of Leo and Amy's efforts to get him out of there, and as a result, they're doing everything they can to contain him in order to rid of his file entirely. A very interesting part of this occurs at the end though. We then cut to a shot from within what appears to be the interior server satellite, and here, to me, seems to be the beginning of a total system sweep in order to start this world anew. The last notable upload in this storyline lies within System Restore. As we established prior, the interior seems to be prepping for a system-wide reset, and, well, I'll just let this video speak for itself.
Okay, I'm clear. Like, I'm super like enthralled in this. Let's go back. Come on. The object will translate as a store, position. what it is. God damn it. Okay. Yep. Okay. Confident that's what that is. Activating player. So when it does that, it should move the Covenant Spartan door. a door open. It's like not that difficult. is that 3D vector? Assuming the Z vector is up. Oh shit, I actually made it work. Fuck. Imagine that. Who would have thought? Oh, if I do it again, it goes back. Probably not good. So I can just like keep activating it. Well, progress, tiny amount. Bit much, I think. Obviously, you would have like a wall there or something. Maybe it could make it. So now, that's a lot of nodes. Like, for a door, like for a single door, you'd think it'd be not that many. Like, what if you have a shitload of doors, I guess? This guy shit can't have that many. Let's see. So that happens. Is there like a stopwatch? does this, I need like a timer here. That's all I need. Well, definitely not what I want. There's like no way a door is this complicated. Sorry. There's gotta be an easier way. I'm gonna get off. I'll watch some videos and come back. Hopefully better prepared.